instance, is up about, oh, this is a horrible view on this chart, is up about 12.5%, which I'm loving. I actually ended up buying this yesterday late in the day. I'm sorry I got it posted late. It's just one of those things where it's like you start to do the research, you look at the options contracts, you realize that they're greatly undervalued, or at least from my perspective, they were, and that you can get pretty mega returns from them if Mara ends up going higher. So I have 2,000 of these contracts. Subs got this message yesterday, both on Discord and on X. And I believe, if we can get into the 40s, which I think is very possible, honestly, for this company right now. I think they had a great earnings yesterday. The diversifying, largest miner by hash rate, efficiency's getting better, largest Bitcoin stack out of any of the miners by a huge margin. Again, doing convertible bond offerings, very much trying to diversify into different areas, making turnkey for data center and AI centers, and really purchasing power, which I think is a smart thing to do too. But it looks like a great play. It's basically running the net asset, or the NAV that people talk about, the net asset value of the stock is like 1.1 right now. So it's literally like what their Bitcoin holdings are. So I think it's a great opportunity. I think it can get into the 40s. If it got into the 40s, I can make $3 million. If it went to the next fib level and got into the 90s, I could make $11 million. So it's a pretty interesting take. Also, when I do this, guys, and when you do it too, one of the things I'd recommend if you get into options contracts is slowly rolling out of them. And as you roll out of them, sell the options contracts and then buy the stock. Buy the stock. Because what you're doing is you're contributing to everybody that's a part of this by pushing it even higher. And as you push it higher, you fuck the shorts. And as you fuck the shorts, it goes even higher. And then more people make money, including yourself, on the remainder of your contracts. And then as you make money on the remainder of your contracts, you sell a little bit more, and then you buy the stock, and then it goes up. And you're deleveraging yourself as you're doing that. So you're reducing your downside risk because, again, options are momentum-based tools. So you limit your downside risk while you're getting into the actual stock itself, and at the same time, you help support everybody else. It's badass. It's a great way to do it. Anyway, I digress. We got a lot going on. Not just Nvidia having great earnings, raising guidance, all the right stuff, and Mara doing a great job. But we have the Epstein files starting to get released today, which is going to be insane politically, depending upon the names that are on that list. Evidently, there were 250 victims, so they were, excuse me, waiting to release the list until they could redact some of the details of the people that do not want to be named in this. Because if you're a victim, you don't necessarily want the press and the negativity and maybe like psychotic people talking about trying to murder you because you're incriminating their favorite person. So there's that. That's going to be crazy. Bitcoin, there's China courts reviewing crypto position, reviewing their crypto stance. I actually think they're probably going to lean into crypto and Bitcoin because they're trying to pull in as much money as possible. I think that's another reason why you're going to see Deep Seek version 2 coming out here too, real quickly, because they're just trying to compete and show that they're aggressive and that they're growing and they're still relevant. So I've got a feeling that they're gonna do this, and if they're positive on their rulings with crypto this week, that'll be interesting. We got MetaPlanet issuing $2 billion in yen to buy more Bitcoin. We got Trump tariffs, 25% on Europe. We got a Doge, more aggressive mandate from Trump via an executive order yesterday to expand it significantly. We'll talk about those details. We got Trump meeting with Keir Starmer and J.D. Vance meeting with Keir Starmer today. This will be interesting. The man is turning into a dictator, so it'll be interesting to see how these guys confront him and what they say. We got a judge halting the order to pay the foreign aid workers $2 billion. This activist judge, the Supreme Court overruled him yesterday. We got massive cuts to the federal workforce coming in March, evidently. Just a preview of that is IRS closing 120 offices and laying off thousands of workers. I got a feeling we're going to see a lot more. And then we have a government shutdown coming next month where I think that we'll actually be okay with letting it get shut down. It just lowers our expenses and puts more pressure on Democrats who are supposed to be the ones defending all these government jobs. So it's going to be interesting. And then again, we run down the Treasury General Account, the TGA, and that's a liquidity creating event that's positive towards markets. Also, some of the other negativity that we've seen here recently, I think people are starting to realize that tariffs aren't going to be the inflationary thing that they thought they were, and it's just going to be a slowing growth thing for the world. And that case, I think, is very strong for TLT, very strong for bond yields continuing to drop. They're popping a little bit today. They're up 0.89%, but they're close to rolling over. So I think that's going to be interesting too. We're not quite. If you look at the bottom left, guys, you'll see that Bitcoin isn't really in a safety zone yet. We're still in the breakdown zone. So we could still roll over. So I think the 70s are still a possibility. Just keep that in the back of your head. We're not safe yet. We've got more economic data coming out today. We'll review that when it comes out. I think the first batch is 7:30. Let's just take a look. Yeah, so it looks like 7:30, durable goods, GDP growth rate, jobs, everything really. Everything. We got tons of stuff. PCE prices, real consumer spending. There's a lot of data coming out at 7:30, and then we have more at 9 with pending home sales, which I think are going to be bleh. And then at 10, actually, the Kansas Fed will be releasing more data. I don't know if I'll stick around for that one. That's quite a long time. I've already been working since 5. So we'll see about that. But lots of economic data coming today that should be very enlightening too. And then BP actually. British Petroleum announced that they're going to spend an extra $10 billion to expand their oil and gas fields because of the positive stuff that Trump is doing towards the industry. We're probably going to see a lot more of that, I imagine, from others too. And then Chevron will have to pause operations in Venezuela because Trump is pissed at them because they're not taking back the people they're supposed to be taking, and they're just not really working with this government. And so he's going to penalize them and really make them feel the pain. So I got a feeling that they'll make changes soon. And then we got Elon Musk getting ready to get interviewed on Jon Stewart. I don't know exactly when that's going to take off, but it's a lot. There's a lot going on today. We'll start off real quickly here with, and I'll try and get caught up in chat too. Good morning, everybody. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Derek Fisher, would you consider buying 2027 calls if Tesla drops further? So let's look at that real quick, because I have been looking a lot at calls. I've realized something. I was getting really lazy with my calls. It's the reason why I backed out of the Tesla ones. Everybody kept asking me like, "Hey Jesse, why are you buying in the money calls?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just doing the same thing that I was doing before. Laziness." Well, laziness is detrimental to you. Laziness is not good. So Tesla's up today, 2.1%, but again, it was down yesterday, 4. It's just the risk return adjust like the risk return average for me was not good. It just wasn't worth it. And let's take a look at 2027s though. Let's look realistically, just super fast, at what we might be able to get out of a 2027 call with Tesla. So let's say, so it depends on how far you want to go out. Right now, I've just got a retracement zone. We could stop here. This actually wouldn't be a horrible place, but again, we could go down even further. I don't think it's crazy to think that we have another 6% downside to the golden retracement zone. This is where the volume really starts to pick up. And again, it could go even lower in like the 250s, over here around the 200 moving average. That's where volume is thick. This is massive volume right here. So much history. We could stop here, might go a little bit further. That's all I'm trying to say. There is support, obviously, if you look here, 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 here. This is an area where you can bounce. And Mark Newton, our friend from FS Insight, I might even show you a little bit of a video there. Don't sue me, Tom Lee. But just showing that this could be a bounce zone for Tesla right now, and that there's peak pessimism on the stock because everybody reading the bullshit about the massive drop in sales. They ignore the fact that seasonally this is the weakest time of the year. They ignore the fact that the Model Y refresh was coming in, and a lot of people were waiting for that. There's just a lot of stuff that people like to ignore. But let's pretend that. So again, I think we can get back up to this 480 pretty easily. I think we can get to 600. So we'll just use 600 as a launching pad to look at some of the contracts here and see how good they are. So we'll go to January 2027. We'll say $600, and I'm not going to own 7.7 million in contracts. So let's just lower that number a little bit. This is probably something a little more in line with what I might do. So, and then I do believe that there's a possibility that we could get to 900 by into Q1, or I should say, with the time allotted here, I think there's a chance we could get to 900. We never try to get the max range though. And again, maybe it goes even higher. Maybe it goes past 1,000. Maybe it goes to 1,200. We're not going for max range with options contracts. That's not what we're trying to accomplish. We're looking at them at the risk-adjusted return of what they can provide. And with these 2027s, I mean, they're not horrible, honestly. If you can get to, but again, the danger here is this is a 600 call. If 2 years pass and this thing isn't at 600, 100% return, like let's say over here, let's say it's June of next year, okay? And so you've given it about 15 months, 16 months. It's up 100%. You've made 223%. That's a 2x the underlying, right? It's not 1x. 1x would be 108%, but it's like 2x the underlying. My general rule for myself is that I want at least 3. Now, if you think it's going to go a lot higher and you have a high level of confidence that it's going to go to 900 by January of 2027, then that, and again, you've got almost 2 years for that to play out. You got about 22 months, right? If you think it's going to be 900, I think there's a decent probability that 900 exists. Then it's 200% return will give you 724%. So that's a better number, right? Like that's a little over 3x. So that meets kind of my minimum requirements of what I would like to look for. So do I love it right now as an options play? No, I'm just sticking with stock. And again, I did flip from this, in the last like 48 hours, my thought process flipped on it, and then I made the change yesterday. Just because I was being lazy, I was being stupid, and I wasn't putting enough work into looking at the contracts and figuring out, hey, are they still a good deal? Is this the right thing to do? I was like, hey, the stock dropped a bunch because I sold at the top with the options contracts. I should just start dialing into them and put no work into it. And when you put very little work into something, it's usually doesn't turn out well, or you have to get lucky. I don't like luck, so it was shame on me because I ended up losing as much probably as somebody who owned stock and took the ride down. And I posted about that yesterday. But so this is okay. These are okay. I don't love it right now. Now, would I love it more if we got down to here at like the 240s or something? Fuck yeah, I'd love it. If we got down to here like the 240s, or let's say we even back tested again this trend line down to the 230s, then I might reevaluate that because that 3x might be 4 or even 5 if the options contracts really get washed out. If there's anything I've learned about Tesla and about options contracts, this drop was too quick to be getting into options contracts. Options contracts are time-based tools. Let me get my glasses right here. Sometimes they're crooked. I like see them and then I'm like, oh, it's crooked, and then I crooked it even more. Is that a word? But yeah, and let me actually raise this up because I'm realizing that I'm just a little off on this, and we don't want to be off. There we go, right there. Okay. But options contracts are time-based mechanisms. If a stock drops really hard, really quick, the options contracts haven't necessarily really caught up with their value yet. So if there's anything that I can convey, it would be don't jump into options contracts really quickly when something drops hard. Unless you've been monitoring them and you can see that they just got washed out, flushed out, and they're a really good opportunity, I would not do that. So again, I'm not really interested in this right now. I'm not interested. This isn't enough of an asymmetric bet for me right now. It barely reaches my 3x at like peak levels of getting into the 900s. And could it go higher than that? Yeah. I mean, if you think it's going to go to $1,200 by January of 2027, then you're going to be sitting really good. I don't know if it is by that time. I mean, it could, but and then this number looks better, right? Because if it goes up to like 1,200, then you're looking at a 1,400% return off of 300%, and that is a much better number. It's like 4.5x. But I would rather let these maybe bleed out more. And if we really get oversold, then I'm going to start stepping into options contracts, and I'll let you guys know when that happens. But otherwise, I'm just hanging out. I'm really enjoying my Mara play. I like it when something goes up a lot and I make a shit ton of money on it. And so far, it's up about 13% on the day. Very nice, solid bounce. Beautiful looking chart. And yeah, I'm liking it. Again, a NAV of 1.1. Just their Bitcoin holdings alone are really nice. Now, they do have debt. Here, that was on the wrong screen. They do have debt too. But again, it's like convertible bond offerings where they got a pretty good deal and they only had to put down so much capital. So I kind of like it too. So I don't know. I don't want to say I like it more than CleanSpark, but I definitely, again, it's a different play than CleanSpark, and I like diversification. All right, let's move forward. Microsoft got burned twice in the last year on Mara calls. Yeah, I'm sure. This is my first time entering Mara calls since I sold out probably in 2023 or something, I think. So 2023? I don't know. It was a while ago. So this is my first time stepping back into them again. And again, I was kind of playing that game with CleanSpark. Wish I would have waited. I should have been more patient on the calls. That's the thing. If you learn anything with calls, again, time-based tools, look for really oversold conditions, and wait and be patient and step into it. And don't be in a rush. If something drops really hard, don't be in a rush to buy leaps right away. Anyway, Microsoft urges Trump to overhaul his curbs on AI chip exports. Microsoft increasingly pushing the Trump administration to loosen, simplify a new system that would restrict the sales of cutting-edge U.S. artificial intelligence chips to much of the world. When it says much of the world, In a blog post that's scheduled to be released Thursday, Microsoft will call for Trump's team to ease limits on chips that can be used in data centers for training AI models so they can no longer apply to a group of U.S. allies, including India, Switzerland, and Israel. So this is different, right? When it says much of the world, that's not really much of the world. It's really just providing them to our allies, India, Switzerland, and Israel. So that's the real headline there. And Nvidia annual revenue, guys, just to give you some perspective here, look at these annual revenues: 4 billion, 4 billion, 4 billion, 5, 7, 10, 12, 11, 17, 27, 27, 61, 131. So if you look here, just in the last, like just this, and again, 2025 obviously hasn't happened yet, so this is more of a projection as well, but it's pretty awesome. Wait 1 second. Sorry, it's my daughter. She's got a wedding today at school. So her friend, Maria, Matea, I don't know, something. Her friend, she's 10, by the way, almost 11. But her friend has a boyfriend, and they tried to practice a mock wedding yesterday. But I guess she had to do some other stuff, so she was busy. So they're going to try the mock wedding again today, and everybody's dressing up for it. And they're doing it in the playground, which I kind of think is fucking adorable. So anyway, I was wishing her luck today at her mock wedding for her friend. So Nvidia annual revenue though is obviously increasing dramatically in the last 2 years. I mean, almost $200 billion. When you look at the previous years, it's just insanely different. So still very positive for Nvidia right now and looking very good. And again, here's another visual just showing the data revenue. It's nuts, man. And yeah. So I think I said this yesterday. I said I think SMI is a good, or SMCI is a good indicator of what's coming for Nvidia, and I think I was right. Again, they help spin up a lot of these data centers and combine the components within them, and that's turned out really good. And Chris Patel? Chris is a good person to follow in regard to SMCI. I think he's paying a ton of attention to it. He's kind of Patel. Sorry. Trying to remember his last name. Sometimes I just have brain farts, but he's great. He follows it a lot. And he's somebody, we have differing views about things a lot of the time, but I also really respect his research and the effort he puts forth. So if you wanted to follow somebody about SMC, I think Chris is probably your guy. Also here, MP Mike, prison sentence. What is this about? Anyway, ignore the beating of people. But if you look over here, you can see the new Grok symbol over here, which I'm absolutely loving. I'm really glad that that's out there. Let's jump real quickly. Geopolitics is so ugly. Let's go to Trump real quick. So this is great. This is just a person saying that everything is getting cleaned up. This is happening all across North Carolina. We're actually doing something now, and it's just wonderful to see.
They came back here with the Army Corps, with FEMA.
Alan Kirshen singing the Corps' praises. A crew of about a dozen workers, he says, showed up.
We were fifth on the list, they said. Some trees fell on our barn, some trees fell on our RV port.
Were you happy?
Oh, absolutely.
Kirshen lives in Fairview and signed up for the program in December.
So I just love this. I love that we're actually helping Americans and taking care of them. Ted Cruz says this is not normal. Today's Democrats hate democracy. So in Maine, where again we're having some battles between the federal government and the governor there, they just censured Republican Laurel Libby and stripped her of her voting rights in the Maine House because she defended women and girls' rights. This is fucking insane. Absolutely insane. Also, in regard to the Doge Act, there's probably some confusion on how things work between the House and the Senate. I do want to play this. This is from Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. and he's doing work in the Senate. And let's just listen real quickly to what he has to say. I just want to make sure people understand the differences, understanding what's going to be happening with some of these bills that are coming out. The tax breaks and all these things are going to be very important in the next month, 2 months. So we really want to focus on them.
We're getting a lot of questions about what's the difference between the House budget that they voted on last night, reconciliation, budget package, whatever you want to call it, or the Senate version that we passed last week that was, the all-night vote-a-rama. By the way, because some people are calling it budget, some people are calling it reconciliation, why don't we just call it the Doge Act? Because really this is about President Trump's agenda, about pushing forth his agenda, making the cuts, getting us healthy, making sure our defense is strong, making sure our economy is strong, making sure our energy sector is strong, making sure our military is strong, and then locking in taxes. So what's the differences between the two? The one we voted on in the Senate last week is just a very narrow
Speed it up
package.
just
It
there.
just dealt with defense, national security, and the border with energy in it. What the House passed was a much broader package, and it also included taxes. Now, the current tax policy, we're just looking to extend it. The problem is this only extends it for up to 8 years. The president, if you're paying attention today, just put out a Truth Social post that him and I spoke about earlier today about asking the House and the Senate to make them permanent. And I will tell you, I don't want to see these expire.
So I'll cut to the short of it. That's essentially what he's trying to do, right? So he's working with the president in order to be able to try and make these things permanent. And so, 1 second here. Just going to raise my chair just there. To make these things permanent. And so that's what's happening right now. And so that's what the Senate's trying to do. And they're going to kick these back. They're going to kick basically the bill back to the House. With their revisions to make sure that the tax breaks, like the corporate tax breaks, small business, and everything else that they're kind of setting up will be a permanent fixture and not just something that could expire, in 8 years or a shorter time frame. So that's good in my opinion. We want to see that. Also, in regard to the Epstein file drop, we've got Rep. Luna who calls it a huge win. She also says that they're going to be, as these things get released, they're going to work to prosecute.
Should be held accountable for the terrible things that they've done. So that's a big win. Obviously, you guys know we've been tasked to head up, and actually Brandon Gill's here. He's actually heading up the task force on declassification. Although we don't hold declassification authority, we are going to be investigating everything that is released and declassified from the White House. So Epstein's going to be on there, also looking into JFK, RFK, MLK, and so we are very happy. This is a huge win, not just.
So again, lots of stuff happening, guys. We're going to be going after this, and this is crazy to me. We've got a liberal, Woody Harrelson. He's about as out there and liberal as you can get, right? And I like Woody a lot. But yeah, he's definitely in the liberal category, right? Let's listen to him real quick.
As a left-leaning hippie Texan, maybe it is in my nature to be somewhat rebellious, but I can't help but wonder, in spite of all of the criticism Bobby Kennedy Jr. received for encouraging us to be somewhat skeptical about these rushed COVID vaccines, what if he was right?
So this is just crazy to me. And so it just goes through a bunch of articles talking about it. Having Woody Harrelson all of a sudden siding with RFK Jr. Is just awesome. It's awesome, and I think it's a really good thing. Holy fook, MSTR. Why is MSTR ripping despite the weakness in BTC? So I think I told you guys something yesterday, and I told you maybe the day before that. And I said that the thing, you'll know that when we're getting closer to a bottom, you'll start to see Clean Spark, like today in pre-market, up 4.7%. Iron up 5.77%. Yesterday, MicroStrategy up 5% at the end of the day, even though we were seeing, getting to the low 80s, and then up 2.84% today. And then again, Mara up 13.5%, it looks like, as of the time of saying this. So I said they'll outperform the underlying asset. We might not even still be done dropping yet, but you could still see outperformance from the miners, and that's just a signal that the leverage is pretty wiped out, and that we're looking to find a bottom. So it's good stuff. And again, so here's Pam Bondi talking about the Epstein files. Real quick, we'll play this. So this is her saying that they're going to be releasing them today, and I can't wait to see this stuff come out. There's going to be a lot of heads rolling.
A lot of people are wondering, because you said last week that you have the Epstein files on your desk.
Oh, and we do have in 3 minutes, guys, or 4 minutes, we're going to have economic data, lots of it.
Yeah.
When can we see them, and what's taking so long to release them?
I do. Jesse, there are well over, this will make you sick, 200 victims. 200. So we have over 250 actually. So we have to make sure that their identity is protected and their personal information. But other than that, I think tomorrow, the personal information of victims. Other than that, I think tomorrow, Jesse, breaking news right now, you're going to see some Epstein information being released by my office.
What kind?
That's insane. And she said that like flight logs and other data, they're just going to start dumping some of this data out. Ago said, how do the miners know a bottom is coming? They don't know anything, but we can interpret from the markets that seller exhaustion is occurring when the higher leverage multiplier, like a miner or something else, or like shit coins. Let's pull up the shit coins. When they're doing better than the underlying assets. So when a shitcoin is doing, when the shitcoin market, like we could see here over the last day, is doing better than Bitcoin has been doing, it's a really good sign that you're starting to see the leveraged wiped out. And you can look at so many other metrics too. We'll go over some of them, but it's just another way for you to know that, hey, we're getting close. Also, this is what the Democrats are going to try and do. So it looks like we're going to get a government shutdown. And Amuse was saying we should let the government get shut down because Democrats are going to hurt more. I read something, and I think I talked about this yesterday. I might have posted it, but over 40% of revenues in the state of Maine come from governmental employees, federal government employees, and state employees. So they get a huge amount from the federal government. They're probably a big part of what DOGE is going to be crushing. And so if we end up shutting down the government too, it's going to crush the state even more. So really, I think the Democrats are going to succumb pretty quickly to a government shutdown, or at least within a decent time frame. And again, we have all the political pressure right now. But let's listen to Mike Johnson talk about this because it is very important. I love Mike Johnson. I'm really going to start following a lot of what is going on in Congress because we need to have an edge and know what's coming and when it's coming, because again, when we do get finalization on these things like no tax on overtime and Social Security and all this other stuff, it's going to be very transformational for markets.
Chairman Tom Cole addressed the House Republicans this morning on the latest developments about how we may be getting close to a number on that. The problem is the Democrats have added something new and different that's never been part of this before. They are trying to add to the appropriations bill a demand that they want us to somehow limit the ability of the executive branch to do its job. They want to tie the hands of the president on what he is able to do with the expenditures in the executive branch. That's never been done before. House Republicans, as egregious as the actions were of the previous president, Joe Biden, as unconstitutional and outrageous as they were, we never proposed using the appropriations process to tie the president's hands. It'd be, I think, a gross separation of powers violation and a terrible precedent for Congress to engage in. So that's a non-starter for us, and the Democrats know that. And so it looks like they're in a posture right now that they're making individual appropriations bills almost impossible. We'll find out soon. Stay tuned. There's more discussion today to be had. But we are nearing, obviously, the March 14th deadline. And I'm really hopeful that they'll back off of those outrageous demands because it's unprecedented and I think probably unconstitutional, and it's not anything we'll be a part of. Thank you. Thank you.
So again, the whole point here is that Democrats are trying to push stuff in to limit Trump's power. That's, like he said, is probably unconstitutional. This will probably push us towards a government shutdown. That's okay. And yeah, MB was right. And what did you say in here? MB, I don't sell options. Does anyone know what the current level of margin is on Interactive Brokers after the recent wipe? I don't know what theirs is, but I can tell you that we've seen a large swath of leverage and margin get wiped out across everything. And we'll look at some of that in the U.S. economic data section. Looks like we probably did get data points. Jesse, thank you for staying live throughout this week, and most importantly, sharing your trades during the brutal few days. Very helpful. Hey, you're welcome, man. I'm happy to be there for you. Let's look over here. We got a huge amount of data. All right, so durable goods orders 3.1%, expected 2% and 2.2%. That's better than expected by a decent margin. GDP growth rate quarter over quarter 2.3%, well in line. GDP price index quarter over quarter second Price versus growth. Sorry, 2.4%. They expected 2.2, so a little inflationary, but not too bad actually. I mean, 2.4 is nothing really. Higher than expected, but again, not a big deal. Initial jobless claims 242. So we're seeing those jobless claims rolling over. This will increase the odds that the Fed needs to cut rates. So we're seeing higher amount of initial jobless claims than before. And again, this is more of the canary in the coal mine, because continuing in these other things are like, what's been happening? Are people able to get new jobs? Initial is a big deal because it shows that there's a lot of people that are going to the unemployment office. Again, probably mostly government jobs. They were expecting, consensus was 221, forecast was 225. We got 242. That's a decent uptick. We're probably going to see more of that, right? Continuing jobless claims, 1.862. That is actually lower than consensus and forecast, so it looks like people are finding new jobs. That's good. Core PCE prices, quarter over quarter, 2.7%. So about a 2% higher margin, kind of like the GDP price index. Durable good orders minus defense, 3.5% versus a forecast of 1.4. So again, durable goods looking really good this month. GDP sales quarter over quarter, 3.2%, right in line. Jobless claims 4-week average 224. So that is so the 4-week average is idling higher than what they expected, slightly, and then higher than previous. Non-defense good orders ex air 0.8%. So versus a 0.3 and a 0.4. So it looks like durable goods and good orders are tight and looking great. And then again, we're seeing a little bit of an uptick in prices for things, but not bad. Like prices, PCE prices quarter over quarter was, and this is estimate, 2.4% versus 2.3 and for forecast and consensus. Real consumer spending 4.2%. That's in line. So all in all, I'd say this is a pretty decent read, because I think it actually is going to increase the odds that the Fed ends up lowering rates in May. I think we're getting closer and closer to that guaranteed 25 bips that I've been talking about. And yeah, let's zoom into a little bit. Actually, we might jump over here real fast, and just refresh this and see if our boy Rick Schmantelli has anything to say. Maybe some revisions or something that we want to hear about. He's always good for the revisions. It saves a bunch of time because I don't have to look through it, which I love. And then I also get the thought process behind Rick, and he's a pretty smart dude.
It is Thursday, and that means we have a whole bunch of economic data that's just about across the wire. We're going to get initial
Markets
jobless
haven't
claims,
really
revised
moved
fourth quarter GDP, January durable goods.
Probably right.
We're watching the futures ahead of that, and we're still in positive territory. Dow futures up by over 100 points. The NASDAQ up by over 160. You've got the S&P up by about 35. Rick Santelli standing by at the CME in Chicago.
Smart, Nick.
Rick, let's take it away.
Yes, there is a long list of data points here, so be patient. GDP, second look at fourth quarter, 2.3 our last look, and it remains at 2.3. To put it in context, 2.3 was actually the weakest since the first quarter of 24, when it was 1.6. If we look at personal consumption, well, it actually remained the same. Many were looking for it to deteriorate a bit. 4.2%, very solid reading, the best since the first quarter of 23. The pricing index is leapfrogging. It is jumping. Price index moves from 2.2 to 4.2. I mean, I have to look at that twice. That almost seems like I read it wrong across the wire, but it is 4.2. That would be the hottest. We're going back all the way to the third quarter of 22 when it was 4.5%. Now, if we look at the PCE on a core basis, now this is a quarter over quarter metric, it jumped 0.2 from 2.5 to 2.7. That would be the warmest since 2.8 in the second quarter of last year. So yields, of course, are going to most likely pay attention to that. Some will say it's older data. Durable goods now, 3.1% on the headline.
That's
this is
the more
January
relevant
preliminary,
data.
much stronger than the 2% we were expecting. 3.1 would take us back quite a ways. Last time you had any number that was even remotely in that region, you'd be going all the way back to, wow, really way back. You're going back to June of 2020. June of 2020. That is really a very, oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. July of 24, we had that one outlandish read of up 9.8% July of last year. Now, if we take out transportation, we can really see what happens here. Take out transportation, Becky, it goes from 3.1 to 0. And by the way, we had a slightly positive revision for the headline number from minus 2.2 to minus 1.8. So part of this is a kickback from last month's weakness. Capital good orders, non-defense ex-air proxy for capital spending up 0.8, and that, of course, is a preliminary read. It's almost 3 times what we were expecting. And finally, if we switch from orders to shipments, not good news here. We're seeing that shipments, more of a rearview mirror, is down 0.3. Down 0.3. That is preliminary, but that would be the worst shipment negative month-over-month change since July of.
I kind of think that that's going to be expected too. There's a lot of people that pulled forward shipping in order to offset concerns about tariff issues. And again, we got seasonality that plays into Q1 too. I don't know. I'm not worried too much about a lot of this. I think it doesn't sound like there's too much going on in revisions. I do want to answer some questions though. Hey Jesse, could you please explain why the 10-year rolling over is positive for TLT? So the 10-year rolling over shows that the long end of the curve, the 10, 20, and 30 year, they're not worried. The bond vigilantes and the people that buy these longer dated bonds, they're not as worried about inflation being a concern in the future. Or they also believe that the U.S. is going to be able to repay their debts. And so they believe that they're going to be able to lock in a guaranteed rate of return, right? The 10-year is the closest in relation to what we get our loans off of, whether it be like a car loan or a house. And I'm oversimplifying some of these things, but it's hard enough to understand for most people, I think. So I try to simplify as much as I can. So if the 10-year is going down, that means mortgage rates are going down. That means car loans are going down. And again, if people are buying these, what they're doing is they're locking in rates with these lower levels. And all TLT is an ETF of the 20-year. And so the ETF goes up when the yields go down. So that's the same with any of these, right? So like when the 10-year is going down, when the rates are going down and they're going to lower levels, people are locking in bonds they're trying to lock them in and buy them at higher yields so that they can lock in that rate for that period of time. And so TLT is great because, again, you get the dividend from that yield. And if you're somebody who's worried about growth in the future, like let's say you think that inflation isn't going to be a concern, you're worried about economic slowing, but you think the U.S. is going to be a great place to invest in because you're like, Doge is doing a great job. This gold card thing is brilliant. The low tax environment's going to be brilliant. The way that they're trying to increase growth and get people to come to the United States is working. I see Apple doing another $500 billion. I just heard that BP is going to do $10 billion in oil expansion. So if you think that energy prices are going down in the U.S., if you think that Doge is going to do a good job, if you think our government is going to manage things a lot better this time around, from just the first 2 months that we've been given in a vision here, and if you understand that tariffs aren't inflationary, and if anything, they change spending patterns, and the people that really end up getting hurt are on the other side of the pond wherever those tariffs are hitting, because they'll see lower sales and lower revenues. And if there's lower revenues, there's lower tax receipts. And so when you realize that tariffs aren't inflationary really in our world, because people will find cheaper options or they'll just delay spending. And you look at the first Trump presidency and you realize that, inflation was between like 1.5% really. And so even with all the tariffs that were put in place, and I forget the exact number that he got from the Chinese, but maybe like at least $350 billion in revenues during his presidency. So when you look at that and you realize that, hey, maybe the U.S., if I'm worried about economic growth around the world, maybe it makes sense to invest in TLT because the yields are going to come down on the 20-year too, just like they're coming down on the 10-year, and we can see the 10-year rolling over. And so when that happens, this goes up. And if you look, again, we had the worst bond market rout when you just look at it broadly since the 1700s. Hundreds of years have went by, and we hadn't seen anything as bad as what had happened. And why did it happen? Why did we have such a bad bond market rout? We had a bad bond market rout because people saw us print 40% of the money supply that ever existed in the history of this country. And since we did that, people are like, how the fuck is the U.S. ever going to repay their debts? So they started to look at us as a banana republic, and that's what everybody was saying. And that's probably what we would have turned into if Kamala Harris would have been elected. But now they're like, the U.S. isn't a banana republic. There's like American exceptionalism. This country is the future. And so if you believe that this country is the future, I think it's a good idea personally, or at least that's what I've done, to get some TLT 100 and 110 strikes. That's just literally like right up here to here. It's where this little trough is on the visible range volume profile. And today this is down 0.6%, so it's basically wiped out yesterday's gains, which is great because I used some of it yesterday to buy the dip. And I've just been doing that each day, and I still have the same amount. I'm sitting right now, I'm just a little over 500,000. It might be a little less than that with this dropping today. But I've been using that money, and I feel like I've just been at the same number pretty much forever to buy all the way down. But I think that this thing can still go. I think it has potential. I don't know if I want to say 142, the golden retracement zone. I think it has very strong potential to go up, 30+% up here to this next fib line. Where we'll hit a lot of previous trade action and peaks in the volume. And I don't know if it goes beyond this because I think I've been thinking about this a lot. And I think what happens with the bond market is I think as people worry about growth stagnating, maybe over the next quarter, the stock market might do okay because people will be like, oh, hey, great. That means the Fed's going to inject liquidity. And then they see that China is going to be injecting liquidity like they did with the 50 billion yesterday for the yen. Or yuan. I think it was 50 billion. Maybe it was denominated in US dollars. But you'll see more liquidity getting created, which liquidity is great, especially if you have velocity behind that where it's exchanging hands, then you'll start to see the markets explode higher. But it's but I think that people will also, again, I think they'll buy these bonds while they're worried about growth. They'll also be buying stocks because they'll get excited that the Fed's going to be lowering rates. But I do think there'll be a time that will come where we realize that our country's really doing well. And maybe that's the end of Q2. Maybe it's in Q2. But if we get a really strong bounce up to here and we get up to like 120, I'll probably sell out of most of my TLT over the short term because I think the yields will actually maybe start to bounce and rise again. And they'll rise not because people are worried about our economy. They'll rise because people are like, I don't know if I'm really interested in buying a lot of bonds right now because it looks like the USA is on such a great track. I'll lock in some with all the money that I'm making, but I'm more focused on stocks right now because I think we've got the age of autonomy. I think we've got all these other things. So I'm looking at this maybe as a shorter term play now in the months and quarters ahead, where if we have a slowdown, people aren't worried about inflation, but we have a slowdown, this is the play to be in. That's my take. That's why I like it. That's a long explanation. Probably not going to say it again. Hey Jesse, could you please? Oh, that was you, Jacob. Great day to have Diddy oil up the shorts and give him a squeeze. Yeah, what is oil at? Oil's at 69.37, just a little bit of a pump. I think that Venezuela news maybe is giving it a little bit of life, but I think that's going to disappear because again, he'll probably find a deal, and then we'll be pumping oil with Venezuela again. And we're just trying to let Venezuela know who the boss is. That's what Trump is really good at. MB, I guess, trying to decide whether to sell my Tesla calls like Jesse did or not. He said they dropped 30. So to be clear, what I said was, to be clear about what I said, because some people are shit talking me yesterday, and I don't take shit talking well. I don't know if you guys realize that. I do not take shit talking well. So if you're going to shit talk me, even if you're a paying member, I will block your ass. So talk to me nicely, like if you met me in person and had any respect for me whatsoever. Okay. Otherwise, say fucking goodbye. But anyway, so what I was saying is that Tesla has dropped as of yesterday. It was down 40%. So I sold my calls at the top and then thought I was really smart down here and started buying them back. But in the end, I probably lost this entire amount because I bought the calls, and really they're only giving like 2x. It's not within my normal rules. So I didn't like them. And you could probably, maybe we start bouncing from here. Again, Mark Newton thinks that from FS Insight. And I think it's possible. But I just want to be safe I wanted to remove some leverage. It's not a good asymmetric bet for me. So if it's not a good asymmetric bet for me, I'm going to remove the leverage. I've got other stuff that gives me wicked returns. Again, I'm Mara. If I can make $11 million because this thing ends up climbing 590%, that's met my entire goal for the year, in one thing that cost me $156,000. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but maybe it gets me $6 million because it goes up 360% from here. I think that's possible. And so I'm just trying to be smart with my risk profile, and I don't need to be in options for everything. And that's kind of what I wish I would have done a better job on that. I wish I would have done a better job staying out of those after I got out. I should have stayed out. That was the appropriate move. Did you sold all? Yes, I sold all of them. So I post this to subscribers on X and Discord. Both of them get to see it, whether you're subscribed to one or the other. And I sold out of all of them yesterday morning, and then I just bought Tesla stock. So before we had the big drop, I sold out of all of it and just went back into the stock. And I'm just going to sit there. I'll have a better peace of mind. I don't have to worry about us chopping sideways for a while, because again, that could happen. And because of this steep, precipitous drop, the leaps haven't really felt all the pain. Well, they could feel the pain if we hang out down here and grind for a month. Because they're time based, they'll just get ate up. And why get ate up when you can just hold the stock? So I'm looking for things that are getting ready to take off. I'm not looking for things that are getting ready to grind. So that's why I did what I did. I hope that makes sense. Jesse, do you think the 330 June 2026 calls will do okay if your cost basis is in the 50s? I don't know. What is your cost basis? I don't know what mine was. I don't think they're that much better. Again, we just looked at Tesla over here, guys, and for the 2027 600s, use the calculator. And here's what I'm talking about. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. So let's say that this is the thing you need to think of. If we're grinding sideways, like let's say this. I'm going to change the range here to like because we think it can go as low as like, let's say 240 or 250, right? So here's what I want to show you. So what happens if you own these? This is 2027, but whatever, it'll give you an idea. This is 2027, 600 strikes. Here's how much you lose each month if we just go sideways or go down. So right now we're up over here, right? We're up over here. It doesn't look bad. But let's say it goes down and it's April. You've lost 30% of your money. Let's say that it's gone down to 230 and it's May. So we've done nothing. You've lost half of your fucking money on these calls. Half your fucking money. Now, if it goes up a bunch, let's look over here. So if it goes up, let's say it goes up 55% and it's May, then you're doing better, right? You're up 140%. You've got basically almost a 3x the underlying. So if it goes up 50%, that's great. But this pattern that we're looking at, I think it can grind sideways. If it just grinds sideways to, let's say, like, and this is months, so let's say like till the beginning of May or something like that, you've lost 7% of your money. So, and that just based on the time. So think about theta decay when you're looking at options, okay? Just think about that stuff. And it looks like, I'm trying to see what markets are doing. It doesn't look like markets are getting hit that bad from all this data. Somebody said SPY just dipped quick. Did it? I don't know. I mean, SPY might be, but at least the stuff I'm looking at looks pretty good. This doesn't look like a bad day to me. I'm going to switch to pre-market on my... I don't know. It doesn't look like a bad day to me. All right, let's keep going. I feel like I got a little sidetracked here. 749. Again, we got more data coming out later. Let's go back. I want to go... Let's see. Did we go to Trump in here? Let's just rock and roll through as much as we can. We did that. We did Woody Harrelson. We did Palm Bandy. We did Michael. I also said... Trump is in his dream job right now because of Doge. You're fired. You got to remember, he literally had a show. Life is so weird and poetic. He had a show where all he did was like fire people, and now he's doing it in real life. Bill Mitchell said, we had tariffs, again, 1.5% inflation in Trump 1.0. People are afraid Trump's tariffs will be inflationary. They were afraid of the same thing in Trump 1.0. Trump had record low inflation, and 1.5% tariffs aren't inflationary because of the law of supply and demand. This is an important thing to know, so I want to spell it out real quick, okay? People only buy foreign stuff because it's cheap. If it becomes too expensive, I mean, that's not the only reason, that's whatever. They stop buying it and force down the wholesale cost of local suppliers and make it instead. So again, people will buy local if it's cheaper local. And again, people are going to become pretty patriotic as they make a bunch of money and jobs get better and the world here gets better. If tariffs are always just passed on the consumers as a tax, why do they make foreign suppliers so nervous? Because they know tariffs are just passed on. The power of tariffs is that they force foreign countries into better trade deals. They are leverage. It's amazing how after last time people still don't get it. I agree with this, actually. I agree with this. That's essentially what happens. You could have some short-term inflation that's created from it too, but that's essentially what happens. Also, again, just another example of a bunch of people cleaning up North Carolina. It's beautiful. And this right here shows that a senator, Sheldon Whitehouse, a Democrat of Rhode Island, backed legislation that funneled millions to his wife's environmental nonprofit Ocean Conservancy. She's been paid nearly $2.7 million, while the group raked in $14.2 plus million in federal grants by funded bills White House voted for. Now an ethics watchdog is calling for an investigation for this blatant corruption. We're going to see a lot more of this. And this is real corruption, guys. This isn't the stuff that people try and blame Elon Musk for. You can't be like, oh, Elon got all these government contracts for his space company. Well, yeah, bitches. 90% of the payload mass for the entire fucking Earth goes through SpaceX because they're the cheapest, most efficient, highest success rate, and best company on fucking Earth. And Starlink's the same, and all these other things are the same. So when it's the best fucking option, you can't call it corruption. But that dipshit, you can. Jesse, MB does a fund like TSLL have a kind of theta decay due to, yes, they all do. They have tracking errors and they have theta decay because they're using the derivatives markets to try and figure out and calculate the return that they're trying to give you. So yes, you're paying for you're getting danger with that. Okay, you're getting danger because you're throwing in time as an element, and the time can make you money and it can lose you money just as quickly, and it can go to zero if you don't hit the targets. Whereas a stock you can just keep holding on to, right? So you're increasing your risk for the multiple. Please to God, understand that. D-Local earnings tonight. Awesome. D-Local's been doing really good. I've been getting some bounces on that. It's been really nice to see that JP Morgan raised the price target to $18. That's helping a lot. Hopefully they have a good earnings. Sea-Dog, might as well be Sunday preaching like this. Keep it up, brother. Any thoughts on Tom Lee and Scaramucci? I didn't end up watching it. I got really busy. I didn't end up watching the one for the first crypto legislation meeting. I started watching the beginning of it. It looked great, but I didn't get through it. I do think, though, that they're doing a great job there, and I'm really excited to see what's happening. But I need to watch that one. I'm going to try and get through it today. I have to run everything on 2x. Trump signs executive orders to force. Oh, we saw that one yesterday. Let me see if there's anything else interesting here, and then we'll move on. Borders are Tom Homan. He basically said that they'll double the staff that they have in sanctuary cities. If they want to mess with them, they'll just put more people on the ground. And again, they'll prosecute anybody who's standing up and preventing them from being able to do their job. We talked about that one. Let's see. Jason Perillo, Republican, wins kinetic seat. We talked about that one yesterday. Trump administration has directed all federal agencies to prepare for significant downsizing by March 13th. Get ready for that. And also, you guys might not have saw this, but this is great for Mexico, too. So this conversation right here, he talks to them, and they both chat it out. But he's saying that the cartels, because he lives in Tijuana, he said that the cartel presence has disappeared in Tijuana, Mexico, and that people aren't being trafficked anymore, and that the cartel isn't charging the businesses. He has a business there. Because they basically rape, pillage, and steal from everybody there, too, while the cartels are in town. He said they're not having their money stolen, cartel members haven't been killed, and that residents in Tijuana are now happy. So Tijuana, Mexico is doing better because of what we did. Let me see. I don't know if there's anything else. I think that's it. For the Trump side of things, that's pretty good. Geopolitics are a fucking mess. I might run through it real quickly. So we've got this deputy prime minister of Italy speaking out against the lawfare and the unjust treatment of Romania's Călin Georgescu. Hopefully I'm getting that right. Basically, they're trying to imprison this guy. They're trying to keep him from speaking for the next 2 months while elections are happening that they had stopped previously. This is just a mess. There's some people that don't like him, but it's a mess. And I think that when there's people running for an election and the government is trying to literally imprison them before the election, it's not a good sign for democracy in Europe at all. That's my take. You guys tell me if I'm wrong. Also, this is a family. This is just a reminder of what happened in Israel. People seem to forget it. I don't know why there's so much Jew hate. I don't know why anybody hates somebody for their ethnicity or their religion. I don't even hate Islam. I hate radical Islamists that want to murder other people because they don't conform to their standards, or they think it's okay to stone a woman to death because she was raped. by somebody else, and she therefore dishonored her family by getting raped. There's certain things that I believe in humanity first, but I don't hate other people because of the color of their skin or their religion. But this is a sad picture because the father ended up coming back in a body bag. This little girl, this 18-year-old girl, got murdered. They murdered her shortly after this. They also live streamed all this shit to their family and friends. They pulled up the lady's phone so that on Facebook they could see this family, being persecuted and murdered for entertainment value. So, yes, I think things like this are morally reprehensible, and I don't think there can be comparisons made with what happened in Gaza. When you have a war, because you've slaughtered people, brutalized them, raped little girls, and murdered babies, that is a different situation where you have a war where you're trying to overtake those people and ensure that they can never do that to you again. That's different. It's just different. And you don't hear about these kind of things on the other side where they brutally raped and murdered little girls on the other side of the fence. So this is disgusting to me. And anybody who backs the whole Free Palestine thing is fucking disgusting to me because they're uneducated and stupid. And that's just my take. Did I see the survey? Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. So Canada, again, you've got Pierre Poilievre saying that they should be the wealthiest nation on earth. They're rich in resources, and that liberals have destroyed their country, and I 100% agree with that. You got Bill Maher fighting for Jews in Israel. This is amazing because he's Jewish, but he's also very leftist, and it's interesting to see him call this out for what it is. But I want you to hear this real quick.
Israel is the Jews' homeland, and Jews have always lived there. You can look it up. It's in this book called the Bible. It says the Jews built a temple with a really big wall 7 centuries before Muhammad or Islam ever existed, and sure as shit, you can still go there and touch it. Calling Jews colonizers in Israel is like calling Native Americans colonizers here. It's ridiculous. To mark the October 7th anniversary, we must launch a campaign to educate young Americans about the Middle East. And the way I'd like to begin that process.
And sorry, guys, I cover everything. Again, micro to macro. So I'm looking at geopolitics. I'm looking at everything. So you kind of get this stuff, too, with it. Sorry.
Is by addressing an open letter to Chapel Roan. A great new recording.
I'm probably never going to pronounce his name right until I actually hear it a bunch of times. Sorry.
Artist who, like a Hezbollah pager, is really blowing up. Chapel, if you think it was repressive growing up queer in the Midwest, try the Mideast. Chapel, did you know that for 2,000 years, Palestine was like an Uber driver with a 3-star rating? Nobody wanted it. And there was never any Arab country called Palestine. Chapel, you're not wrong that oppression is bad, or that Palestinian and many other Muslim populations are oppressed and deserve to be freed. You just have it completely ass backwards as to who is doing the oppressing. Hamas is a terrorist mafia that took over Gaza. These are the oppressors. And when you make it all about Israel, you take the pressure off of them. You enable them. Gender may not be binary, but right and wrong kind of is.
Gender is too. All right, here we go. So again, this is just more about them trying to imprison, and this Romanian candidate for president said that he would ban the entire George Soros network in Romania, and I think that's why he's being oppressed. Also, it's crazy that I even have to say this, but my friend Serpinza from South Africa made this video talking about how in Africa and other parts of the world they justify murdering white people because they were oppressors during apartheid and all this other stuff. And he talks about how he left South Africa and how he never did anything. He was a young man during apartheid, and he shouldn't be guilty of the sins of their fathers. And that it just shows how this woman, this young girl actually, this young girl talks about how she just found out that her grandparents had been murdered, but then when she got there, she found out that her parents had been murdered too. They'd chopped them up and butchered them and stolen their stuff, but they'd mostly butchered them. And this girl was only like 16, 17 years old, and she was so tough. But how they butchered them because, again, they're white. They're white, and they're colonizers, and just all this bullshit that we put out there. So I want to be clear. Just because I'm white doesn't mean you can't be racist to me. And if you murder me because I'm white, that's racist too. Because I've heard very ignorant people say that you can't be racist towards white people. And that is just the stupidest fucking shit I have ever heard in my life. And you can be racist to anybody, okay? You can be racist to anybody. And I hate the term colonizers because it's bullshit, just like we heard from the boy just a second ago here, Bill Maher. Also, less than 20 years ago, and again, every once in a while I'm going to go off on these rants. You're just going to get it. Conor McGregor posted, so this article right here in 2003 says, Dublin, one of the safest cities in the world. In the world. Dublin is considered one of the safer cities in the world, an international survey, rated at 18th, well ahead of many other European nations. Fast forward to 2024, Dublin ranks among the top 10 most dangerous major cities in Europe. Okay? So numbers don't lie. Use facts to guide you. There's a reason why this is happening. And the left seems to want to ignore it. They seem to want to blame it on other stuff. And they've been fed these fucking lies that you need to let everybody into your country. And if they murder and rape and do all this other stuff, it's okay because you're doing the humanitarian thing. And they probably had a tough time getting here. So if they rape and murder a few people, maybe we just need to do a better job taking care of them. Fuck that. All right, Scotland is perfectly clear now. You can pray inside your own house as long as you don't do it loudly or performatively by a window in a zone where you may offend someone. So if you do Christian, and I'm not even Christian, okay? But if you're religious and a Christian, you will be persecuted in Scotland, in Ireland, and the UK, and all these other places. You might end up going to jail for what you're doing, because you might offend some Muslim people. But Muslims can literally pray in a fucking street and stop traffic, and that's okay. Tell me how any of that makes any fucking sense. And again, here's just another view of him getting arrested. It says they pinned against the wall like a criminal, even though he recently had knee surgery and is still recovering. People gathered outside the prosecutor's office demanding his release. So this really screams Banana Republic to me. And here I said, let me just reiterate that the war is going to come to an end. Macron agrees to this. Macron agrees that this is the right time and may end the war in Ukraine. And again, Inevitable West said countries in Europe who say immigration is too high. So you got people in here that poll that say that it's really too high. Even in the UK, they say it's too high, and yet it's still forced upon them. And evidently they're voting that way. I don't even know how good the voting is in the countries anymore. And then I just want to reiterate, and then we'll move on to something else. This is the new prime minister of Germany. And again, this man lied a day before and said that he was going to take care of the border and that he was going to focus on those things. And now he's literally flipping and doing the exact opposite. This is just blatant. I mean, that's insane. Imagine if Trump literally said he was going to do this thing and it was one of the most important things he was going to do. And then immediately after he got elected said, you know what, fuck you. We're not going to do any of that. Thanks for voting for me. I hope that that German party, the CDU or whatever they are, just get decimated in the next election if they can still vote. And then it says, meanwhile, in Belgium, I was just interrogated by police for a meme I posted 4 years ago. If you think that's bad, I must appear in court for memes in a group chat from 8 years ago, while migrants in Brussels shoot and kill people with weapons of war. The EU is not okay. So this guy has to worry about going to jail for memes he did 4 and 8 years ago. What the fuck? Make that make sense to me, please, to God. Tell me why that's a thing. And I might just go off a little bit more here. Let me see. I'm going to see if there's any more that I want to share. Because, again, some of these get a little messed up as far as the order. Some of them I already have. Yeah, no, I think we're good. No more Christmas in Scotland? Yeah, I guess not. Unfortunately, Germany is going to experience the same thing that America would have experienced if Kamala and the Dems won the election. I 100%. Andy Zhao. I'm so bad with names. I 100% agree, man. I 100% agree. There's a lot of pain coming for them in the near future, and it's sad. Let me jump real quickly over to here. U.S. economy. There are some good things, and some of the things that you guys were talked about. Let's look. So one, I wanted to say this. So that Carl Minger said U.S. credit card defaults soared to 46 billion, the most since the aftermath of the global financial crisis. I said in here, I believe the bottom rung of society has been crushed by inflation, which is why we need lower tax obligations and to allow them to keep more of their checks. People started to correct me almost right away, saying that they hardly pay any taxes and that the sales tax is the biggest tax burden. I would disagree. I think I was referencing the tax on tips, the tax on overtime, the tax on Social Security, basically the taxes on their income so that the poor can do better. Okay? So if you remove overtime tax, you create a merit, basically something that endorses and incentivizes meritocracy. And then if you lower taxes on Social Security, you make it to where old people that aren't really necessarily working have more money to be able to pay their bills and offsets that inflation that they had to endure. And then again, tax on tips, again, and meritocracy and incentive to work more and to do more, whether it's DoorDash, being a waiter or waitress, whatever it is, wherever you can get tips, there's an incentive there that you're creating an incentive system. And again, you're giving them a lot more money that will offset some of these increases that they've seen. Not to mention, again, some of the other things that Trump talked about doing, like lowering the interest rate on credit cards to where they're not as high as they are right now. I actually agree with that move. I don't think it's going to help a lot, though. I do think, though, that there's some people that shouldn't have credit cards. They should have secured credit cards where there's money that offsets it. And then, again, they don't have to worry about these crazy interest rates. And then we could cap interest rates at a much more reasonable level. And there would just be more people running secured credit cards and less people just having a credit card that they're going to default on. So I think we can fix problems like this is what I'm trying to say. And I don't think it's a major sign of anything that's going to bad happening in the economy. And so real quickly, retail investors have turned decisively bearish. I think Alex, maybe somebody was talking about this earlier. This is super bullish. This is what you want to see. So the AAI bull and bear spread, and it shows that retail investors are getting incredibly bearish and they aren't bullish. And this is good. This is a sign that we're probably flipping and going in the other direction. It doesn't mean we have to right away, but I do think that is what's happening. And again, concerns about the market falling apart anytime soon, I don't have any because credit spreads usually do fall apart. My boy Mortensen Bach talks about this all the time, but Lance posted it today just saying, hey, right now we're seeing U.S. economic policy uncertainty going up, so we're seeing a divergence here. But the policy uncertainty has not led to credit spreads going higher. Credit spreads are nice and low, which means people aren't worried about the economy having major issues right now. And they shouldn't. They really shouldn't. Let's look at chat here. Jesse, which states in the U.S. are the best and most peaceful to live in your opinion? I think red states are probably the best. I think if you're avoiding big cities, too. Big cities are just messier all around the world. Hey, wow, it looks like I was able to lower the amount of people watching this quite a bit by talking politics. That's great. It's still going to happen. I won't do it all the time, but I'm going to do it. So get used to it or fucking leave. But yeah, so I think if you're avoiding bigger cities, that's a good thing. And then red states are doing better. If you look, states like Florida, Texas, and others are blowing up, and there's a lot of people moving to them. So if you're a red state, you're doing a lot better. If you're a blue state and you have these crazy policies where you let people steal up to $1,000 and then businesses are closing down and you let people rape and pillage and then you release them in 30 days, that's not going to be one you want to move to. The CDU is not going to get decimated because they now have over 4 years. They'll flood the country with immigrants. And maybe that happens, Andy. Maybe that happens. And maybe Germany is just done. Germany could just be done. The UK could just be done. These could be Islamic homes in the next 4 to 10 years. I mean, that's possible. Kirby AI, yeah, I agree, Jesse. Barely any tax is relative. 300 to 800 paycheck is more huge for people than living a paycheck to pay. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like, we're not looking for like a tax break at the end of the year. We're not looking at lower. We can't. I mean, sales tax, state taxes, all these things are more locally jurisdicted. Is that a word? Anyway. So we should be looking at the things we can do federally, and these are going to be impactful. TK, it's so disappointing to see so many people from the West supporting him. Yeah. I mean, there's people that are from the West, I think, especially in the United States, that are going to change their opinions dramatically, and hopefully we can force the EU. I think one of the reasons we're doing 25% tariffs isn't just for fair trade and competition. That's what we're voicing. I think it's because we want to subject Europe to as much pain as we possibly can to break them into allowing free speech and free elections and not turning into dictatorships or communist states, because that's what the elite are trying to do. Dario, what's the bottom for Bitcoin? Market looks like it's heading down until summer, just like last year. What do you think? I think we're close to the bottom, if not at the bottom. That's my take. So I'm not too worried about it. But again, things can change and we'll adapt. We have not, again, bottom left corner, we haven't broken up yet, so we need to break up. We'll see. Today's economic data doesn't really seem to be too impactful in markets, so we'll see what happens. Let's see here. Rose gold. What do you think about the gold card idea? I think it's brilliant. What did I forget the exact number. I'd have to do the math real quick here. Let me just see what happens if they sell. I think, I can't remember what Howard Lutnick said. I think he said they can sell like 500,000 of these really easily. So let me just do the numbers here on what 500,000 $5 million gold cards looks like. I'm going to have to count some dots. Just give me a second. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think that's right. Is that right? I think that's right. So what the fuck? 1. So that's the thousands, millions. Yeah, it's a crazy number. I think in the next 4 years, we'll probably end up easily selling trillions of dollars worth of those. So I think it's an amazing idea. I think it's really brilliant. And I think there's other reforms that need to happen with the visa programs. We need to allow more really brilliant people to come in here without paying $5 million if there's businesses that really want them. But I do like the idea too of if we get a bunch of rich people here paying for their citizenship and we've vetted them, it's going to be great. And yeah, these numbers, no, I don't think it's 2.5 billion. I mean, I got to look at the math here. Just give me a second. I'll double check it because it's really hard to, let's say we get 500,000 people. Is that 500,000? That's 500,000 people that pay for these and they're 5 million a piece. Let me make sure I get the math right here. It's so hard to count all the zeros. There might be one I got to take out here. Yeah. Okay. So I'm getting, let's see. That is the 100,000 mark. I wish this calculator was better. That is the billion mark. 2.5. So if we had 500,000 people that bought these cards over the next 4 years, then we would make $2.5 trillion to offset our deficits. That's a pretty big number. It's a pretty big number. And you got to realize that those people are coming here and they're rich. They're going to spend money here too. So it's not even 2.5 trillion. It's probably like, if we got 500,000 people to do it, I would guess that in just tax related events and stuff, probably $4 or $5 trillion of offset. That in and of itself probably gets us on a sustainable trajectory. Not to mention what we're doing with Doge, not to mention any of the other pro-growth policies. So I think it's amazing. All right, Secretary Treasury Scott Bessent. I did find out he's got an account. It's under Sec Scott Bessent. So I'm following that now, so that'll be great. He said, the American people gave us a clear mandate for prosperity, lower taxes, bigger paychecks, and stronger economy. I am dedicated to working with Congress and making President Trump's historic tax cuts permanent and reprivatizing the U.S. economy. And so again, just like we heard before, this is what they're going to try and do, right? Elon Musk said, indeed, it is essential to reduce the budget deficit to match economic growth. We will get the 2026 deficit to 3% of GDP. Sensible deregulation will ensure that economic growth is 3% higher. That will both defeat inflation and reduce interest rates for all Americans. And this would get us on a sustainable course right here. Just these, not including all the other stuff. And that's great. Rate cut expectations, this is before today, are going up. They're going up and we're expecting more. And I think we're going to continue to see more of that here. But you can see how expectations, you can see how much they change. People thought that we were literally going to get like a little over 125 BIP rate cut on the 12th. And in 2 weeks, they've changed that to more than 2 cuts, almost 2.5 cuts. So you can see how quickly people's perception of rate cuts change. It's very fast. And again, here's that BP one where they don't give a shit about about like all the renewable and worries. They're like, we're going to pump oil and gas. We've got a mandate. And just in, J.P. Morgan still expects the Fed's QT to end in Q3 after Fed Logan's remarks. I think it's going to happen sooner. So Mortensen thinks it's going to happen sooner. I think it's going to happen sooner. I think it's probably going to be Q2. Might even be the end of Q1. So I'm excited about it. So I was saying right now it's a coin flip on where markets go. But one thing I know, the potential for a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine in the weeks ahead will have a huge positive market, or a huge positive for markets. So again, we've got Ukrainian President Zelensky coming to the United States to sign a deal indicating that we're going to be doing, the mineral rights and agreeing to terms on what we're trying to accomplish with the negotiations. And then we'll take that stuff back to Russia, and then we'll try and work details out with them. And then we'll take that back to Ukraine, and then we'll try and see if we can get these two to actually start to talk to each other. And this is how negotiations work. And so I don't know if the process is going to happen really quickly. It might take months, but it's coming. All right. I think that's a lot. I think that gets us through this one. And let's see here. So U.S. economy done. Don't have much there. DLO don't have a lot. TLT, I don't know that I have a lot. Altcoin. Let me go up here. So let's go to Bitcoin real quickly. So I said this is about as low as the crypto fear and greed index can get. So we actually hit a margin of 10 for the crypto fear and greed index. This is very, very low. This is very, very low. So again, this is bottom signaling stuff. If we look over here, the level that we're at right now has something that we have not seen since July of 2022, which was the bottom of the bear market. And that's interesting, and that's interesting for a few reasons. Let's look at Mara real quick here. So not just that, we'll look at that in a second. I did a post about Mara yesterday, and this is another reason why I bought my calls when I did. And it looks like it's up 13%, so I'm probably up 20, maybe between 20 and 30% on those calls today, which is good. I'll take it. It's like an extra $40,000. But yeah, if you look here, lowest RSI on the daily right here since 2020, since right before 2023, the end of 2022. So again, the bottom of the bear market. And so when you get these kind of reads, you need to look back and be like, is this a good time to buy? Maybe it is. Maybe when we're hitting levels that we haven't been at in over 2 years, and like 27 months, really closely, 27 months, that's probably a good time to buy. So that's what I did. Now we'll talk about more about Mara in a second here, but I want to get back to Bitcoin. So again, this is good. So this is actually 2.5 years since this level. So it's even better level. It's really when crypto started to bottom, and but also, too, again, China's Supreme People's Court met to discuss the legal treatment of crypto this week. The fact that they're reviewing this, I think they need a lot of capital. I've been saying that for a while. So I think that they could end up going back into this and opening up the crypto markets, which, again, will be positive for the crypto sector. They'll probably try and pull it all in so they can get as much of it as they can to try and help their economy. But it's positive. Adam E., if we sell 10 million, which is possible, that's $50 trillion. Yeah, it's pretty nuts, right? 500,000 is 2.5. So yeah, it's pretty nuts. We could literally, if we sold, honestly, I mean, if you just look at it and did the math, if we sell 7 million, we won't have a federal deficit. We won't have any debt anymore. Think about how many rich citizens, how many millionaires, let's just look real quick here. Let me ask Grok. And I don't know if this is reflecting. Let me do this real quick. I don't know why it's not showing here. I thought I had the new Grok logo. Is it not over here? Yeah, it is. Okay, it just didn't refresh on the other screen. So let's ask Grok, how many millionaire/billionaires Let's see what Grok has to say. I could have turned on Think to do a little deeper dive. Deep research is good too. But let's see what we have here. And again, I think markets, I don't know, I think we could still roll over. I just have this feeling. There are 58. Okay. So there are 58 million millionaires in the world. The United States is home to about 22 million of them. So really, there are only 36 million people to pull from. So I don't think that number is going to happen. But let's say it's a million. Okay, if it's a million and we can offset 5 trillion of our current debt, then we're back in the black as far as our projections, and we're probably looking at GDP growth that's excessive, and where we're going to have a surplus instead of a deficit. So it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot, even if it was just 1 million out of, again, the 36 million that are outside of the United States. So like 3%, it would be amazing for the country. And I think that's probably a more doable number. Let's keep going. Again, Metaplanet bought 2 billion yen, or is acquiring 2 billion yen to be able to buy more Bitcoin. I think that's great. Berto, you also got to think about the millionaire kids. Those numbers can be multiplied. Here's the thing. Yeah, that's true. I don't know if the 5 million actually gets them in the door without their kids. That's a really good point. I don't know how that works. So yeah, that number could be larger. No, that's true. That's really true. That's a good point. That's a really good point, Berto. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm very excited. I'm very excited about the opportunities we have in front of us. And also my friend Caleb said Bitcoin's daily RSI, the most oversold that it's been since August of 2023 when it was trading at $26,000. Just remember, guys, if you couldn't stick around for my geopolitics, you're missing all the good stuff today. So again, the lowest RSI levels that we saw since the Wayback Machine over here in August of 2023. So we're seeing oversold conditions on a lot. Do I know if the bottom's completely finished yet? I don't know. But Super Bro, our little Mario friend here, says we have a potential wick-off reaccumulation zone with Bitcoin dropping down over here into the 80,000s. And it went just a hair lower than this, but it doesn't matter. That would still technically probably count. So we could still wash out. Maybe we drop into the 70s and even maybe the upper 60s. Possible. Again, for me, it's a coin flip. But this could be happening too. So keep that in mind. Almost there, Simone. Only need 4. Yeah. Cool. I just need 4,900,000. You're close, Simone. You're close. Or Simon. You're close. Tariff talks bringing markets down. Yeah, that's great though. Again, that's what we talked about. So if tariff talks end up bringing the market down, then that will just end up bringing TLT back up. It's still down today because again, we have some threats of potentially higher 10-year, but I think that'll end up coming down too. If nothing else, it's not dropping that hard. Utah is on the brink of passing strategic Bitcoin reserve. The bill needs, we got about 7 minutes before the bell rings. The bill needs a final vote. Time is of the essence since the session ends imminently. If you're from Utah, use the link below to send a letter to your senators. So this will be great if we can get that across the board. And also, guys, GameStop. This is crazy, but I actually think they might buy Bitcoin, especially if we drop into the 70s. And I think that would be a huge catalyst for higher price action. And all the leverage will be wiped out and people will be giddy. So GameStop buys 5 billion worth of Bitcoin. 1, GameStop changes its name to BStop. Maybe not. Installs Bitcoin ATMs. GameStop becomes #1 place to buy and sell non-KYC Bitcoin. ATM fee revenue surpasses traditional sales revenue. I don't know if all this is happening, but I do think that it totally makes sense for these guys to take some of their cash. And what do they have for cash? Let me check here real quick. Let's use our Grok. What does GameStop hold right now for cash? All right, so let's see what they have. So they have for cash right now $4.61 billion worth of cash. So let's say they put $1 billion into Bitcoin. It's a huge amount of money. It would drive markets higher. And again, they'll just be one of the many companies, publicly traded companies. The number has doubled in 2024, the number of publicly traded companies holding Bitcoin. And we'll just see that accelerate even more. So I think that's a really positive thing. Just wanted to talk to it. Oh, this isn't supposed to be in here, but this is interesting. This is the face of Fani Willis. This is under the Trump section, so I got to fix this. Fani Willis under oath before the Senate about hearing her boyfriend to illegally go after the President Trump. We'll see you soon, Madam DA, Senator. Fani has already been disqualified from the case. She has to answer for the plot she tried to pull. So again, lots of corruption here. Just look at her face, guys. Look at her face. She is frightened to death that she's going to go to prison. can see her literally go, I've made some bad life decisions. You can see it. You can see it. You can see it. Let me real quickly put this in the appropriate place. So yeah, this is what happens when you fuck around, you find out. And yeah, those are eyes of fear, man. Those are eyes of fear. Yeah, we got 4 minutes to the bell. Cynthia Loomis, thanks to all the 40,000 of you who tuned in for the first subcommittee meeting. And again, I only made it about 5-10 minutes in, but it was good. It was a great start. Reminder, we're in the early stages of Bitcoin digital assets. If we're going to pass any legislation, we'll need bipartisan support. And yes, this is what they're trying to. So again, I don't know that they have the support to be able to cram this through in the reconciliation process. But they're trying to, there are a lot of Democrats, I shouldn't say a lot, but there's a decent amount of Democrats who understand the purpose of Bitcoin, and they want to pass legislation. They want to pass this legislation. So I think it's going to require a higher margin. Again, it's like 60% or something instead of the 60, or maybe 61% instead of the 51. But they're going to work to try and do this, and they're going to try and make everybody happy. Still not sure if we get the federal Bitcoin strategic reserve in the first 2 years. I'm just not sure if it's going to happen, but I do think we'll get legislation that makes it to where they don't sell it, and maybe they start at least holding on to any that they confiscate, and that would be like maybe they'll get the strategic reserve, but they won't buy into it. And I think all of that is good stuff. I think that's good stuff. It's the kind of things that will benefit us in the long run. Okay, and I'll watch the full video and let you guys know what I think of it too. Again, just Michael saying via CoinGlass that usually we do really well in Q1 and then we do okay in Q2, so that they're expecting that maybe March will be better since we got hurt in February. I don't know. These things can be delayed though. This year could be off. We could have more pain over the short term for long-term gains. Would you load TLT calls ASAP? If I didn't have any, I would probably be buying some, Justin. That's my thought process, because I think that you can do really well maybe over the next quarter. It might even be more, but over the next quarter, I think you can do really well. So I personally would want some allocation to it. Right now, I'm probably sitting about 12 or 13, 14% maybe allocated towards TLT. So, or maybe 12-ish, probably 12. Would you buy more Mara calls today? I wouldn't do it initially, man, because unless you want to just pump my bags, I wouldn't do it initially. Because you're probably going to lose a bunch of money. That would be my guess, because they'll probably retrace a little bit, because again, this thing has launched 14% since yesterday. So I personally, that's like probably going to be 25% upside in the options contracts for today. I don't know. And again, I could be wrong. Maybe it just keeps going up from here, but I do think that there's potential still for downside risk. And so, and you'd be helping me out. You'd be pumping my bags, but I don't know if that's a good thing to do. And I certainly don't need it. Yep, we already said that one. Let's see if there's anything else in here that dropped. So I did say yesterday that we had dropped perfectly off the 200 moving average, or at least right at it on the daily. And so that's where we bounced from, and now we got back up to here. So this could be the bounce zone, but again, and we did fill a lot of gap over here, guys. A lot of gap was filled already by getting down like to what, 82,000 yesterday. So that might be it. I mean, today we're sitting at what? What's Bitcoin at? 86,000? That could be it. Doesn't have to be though. If we get rejected, if you look in the bottom left, if we get rejected at this red line that was previously the support line, then that wick-off accumulation zone might be wrong, and we might just end up going further. So just keep it in mind. I'm still like this, guys. I'm still like this. Maybe we get into the mid 70s or something. Or if you're listening to Mark Newton from FS Insight, maybe you get even lower. I should show you some of that real quick. And the bell is, the bell's in 1 minute. We'll do the bell, and then we'll get back to this, and I'll show you some of the stuff from Mark Newton real fast, just to give you a teaser. Let me go live.
Well, Bethlehem Steel traded 2 times earnings, and then went bankrupt 2 years later. So I don't want to, if you're selling, if your earnings about to collapse, I don't think GM's earnings about to collapse. I think GM's earnings would be very hard to figure out for everybody, because you have like Allison Transmission.
Does the gap between 73 and 86 worry you about a further dip? No, I'm not worried. If it dips further, I'm just going to capitalize off of it.
To happen so that we can figure out.
But no, I'm not worried. The last like 10, 15% of a dip, I don't give a shit about. That's like the opportunity to be able to to leverage in more and enjoy the ride up. Because if we get down to the 73, are you going to be worried about Bitcoin going lower?
APCO Holdings, an inventory capital provider for e-commerce sellers. Speaking of e-commerce, watch some eBay at the open this morning, Jim.
All right, so Tesla is flat on the open.
If you look at the actual numbers,
1 second.
you might be very impressed. But when you...
All right, we're going to let that go. So Tesla's flat on the morning. Let's just look here. I'm going to pull up the chart and see kind of where things are moving. What's going up, what's going down. This probably needs to recalculate. Oh, I've got it on miners. 1 second. Even though that's kind of nice to look at. Let's look at it real quick. So today, miners, guys, look at this. Like BitDeer up 10.7%. Is this updating yet? Mara, no, this must not be updating. Let me go back. Something hasn't triggered yet. Let me go over here, get out of miners. Let me go to the main watch list. Let me go over here. Sometimes this takes just a minute to update. Yeah, so Mara's at the top of the list, 14.5%, roughly. And BitDeer, 9%. Miners are at the top of the list. I love that. I love that miners, Bitcoin's up, from, again, their closings are a little bit different, but Bitcoin's up 2.5%, and Mara's up 14.5%, BitDeer's up 9%, Cypher's up 8.5%, Riot's up 6%, AVAX, so we got crypto-related stuff. Hood's up again. CleanSpark doing okay, 4.4%. But it's nice to see the miners leading. Again, this is just a great indication that we're going to be doing all right. IBIT's up 2%. IBIT really tracks Bitcoin, so that's not surprising. Roman Z maybe puts some minor Bitcoin-related stock as a hedge for potential BTC drop further. That would have been a great idea at 100K. I don't personally love it here because I think a lot of people have already piled into that trade. With options, that's generally what you see. So I don't know. I wouldn't make plans for like another 15% drop because what have we already dropped? We've dropped what did we end up dropping? I think 25% or something close to it. Let me see. We dropped, almost 25%. And so the potential that we're talking about, let's say we get to mid 70s or 73 or something. Let's just say that that's possible. From where we're at, that's another 16. I don't know. I just think that's going to end up being a busy trade, and a lot of people are going to be trying to exit before we get down into the 70s because they're going to want to start to use that as an opportunity to buy back in. So you gotta really think way ahead on stuff like that if you want to benefit from it. Palantir up 3%, Fannie Mae up 3.5%, CleanSpark up 4.5% now. HIMS is up 5.35%. That just got butchered before. We're starting to see some things recover. What's down today? Jesse, I'm so sad you sold all your Tesla calls. Are you? I'm not. I'm still holding them, and I don't know what to do. You can keep them or sell them. It's up to you. I did give my reasoning earlier in this, right near the start of the video. I don't know if you watched it all the way from the beginning, Kumar, but I did say why I exited them. It just doesn't follow my rules. You could end up doing better over the short term in regard to the Tesla calls, but I was showing down here, like, if Tesla for some reason ends up just trading sideways, which it could do, because the precipitous drop that it had is very, very steep. I think the options contracts could bleed out more as we grind in this area. Now, maybe we just end up bouncing right away and rock it up. This is such a strong drop. I doubt that's the case. And so I don't want to endure more pain for a potential 2x return when the 2x return might not be as likely over the short term, and I could have like, I'm just going to ride it out better with the stock itself. And again, if you look over here, if we just trade sideways, let's say we trade sideways to down till May, and I don't know if we will. We might actually do better because, again, we'll end up getting Q2 and other stuff in there. But let's say that we trade slightly down till April. You lose 30% on an 11% drop. So I don't love that. Again, options are time-based. So I decided to get out. I think it's the right move. And that's what I'm always going to do, what's right for my portfolio. And then I'm just going to update you guys. My thoughts are going to change. I'm a human being. So there's going to be times where I don't do due diligence as much as I should. Mara calls are up 48%. I would not buy Mara calls right now, guys. That is a huge number. I mean, it's great that they're up 48%, but damn, I would not buy them. The stock is up 18% today. Like, today's where everybody gets stupid excited. So I would definitely pause on that. I mean, it's great for me because I've just made $80,000, right? But off of that play of 156. Ronnie, how is macro situation off after today's U.S. trading economics figures? I don't know. I don't know if the Fed ends up. I don't know if Fed probabilities of lower rate increases went higher. Let's just check real quick here and see if we can see anything. I don't know that things changed much. Again, it looks like you're going to have more initial jobless claims. It looks like unemployment might be going higher. I don't know if this is even updated yet, but I wouldn't be surprised. It says 22.8, so it's went down to even a little bit more from where it was yesterday. I don't know if it's updated with today's economic data. Again, we got prices are just a little bit higher. I don't think that's going to last for long. But at the same time, we're seeing a weaker employment figure. So we'll see what happens. Now the question is it going to hold? Yeah, I think it's going to do really good. MSTR or Amara's up 18.5% right now. I don't know if it'll hold. It'll probably retrace at some point. It's got a gap underneath of it. What's the Fibonacci level on Tesla's chart for you? How do you use it? That's a whole nother conversation. I don't know what you mean by what's the level. If we look over here, again, the dot. This is a retracement right now. So what I said was we obviously reached the top over here, and I want to see where we're going to drop to. The most common statistical retracement zone. It's rare that you get underneath the .618 retracement, and so that retracement is like right here. That would be a 44% drop from what our high was a couple of months ago. And so it's rare that you get underneath of that. That's also where we start to hit peak volumes. And so right now, all I'm saying on this one is it would be really hard to drop much further on Tesla than about 15%. But as I just showed you, if we stay in that zone for like another 30, 45 days and we're down 15%, you're probably down 35 in those calls. And I just don't want to be in that position. I want to be... Worst case, I want to be in a position where if Bitcoin drops into the 70s, maybe I sell some of my Tesla stock and buy more Bitcoin-related investments because they are the more asymmetric play over the next 6 months, in my opinion. So that might be what ends up happening. But yeah, so this is a fib retracement. And then when I think we found the bottom, I'll turn it around and make it to a trend-based fib extension where I draw the bottom here, the top up here, and then whatever the new bottom ends up being, to see where how far we'll go for the measured move before we have that .618 golden retracement zone again. V855Z, I'm wondering what changed your mind in the Tesla calls. The last time I literally talked about it at the beginning, I'm probably not going to reiterate it again. So if you haven't watched it, go back to the beginning. And then I also made several posts about this. You should be able to look them up and see them. And I went over some of those today. Ouch, DXY. Is it climbing today? Oh, it's up 0.6%. Oil's up 0.144. Yeah, I think some of that Venezuela news about oil. I don't know why else. I guess China's probably hurting, and so I don't know. That's probably pulling up. It's probably making the dollar look stronger right now, which is okay. That's normal. It's still in a dropping pattern. So let me just show you. So the dollar, this is still good. This is a megaphone pattern. Could we find support here and grind a little bit? Maybe even test up one more time before falling over? Yes. Everything is possible. I think the main thing to pay attention to, guys, is what's going on with tariffs. What is Trump thinking? I'm going to be so in Trump's head over the next 30 to 60 days, that and seeing what's going on in Congress. So when I get done here today and after I get my gym workout in, I want to look and see what's going on. I want to watch that crypto council meeting and see how the first one went. And then I want to also watch the video between Anthony Scaramucci and Tom Lee. I didn't see it. I think they do put that in. Oh, and hey, I said I was going to show this. Probably should. So this is Mark Newton. Again, I'm not going to show a lot of their stuff, but he does show how there's this line here going back to August and how this would be a good bounce zone. And he said Tesla's approaching a good risk to reward entry point. And so I've kind of told you that maybe we have a risk of 15% downside from where we are, which I think is a good entry point too. If you've already dropped 40% and you're talking about another 15, that seems like a good entry point. So this is probably one you want to like. This is probably a good place if you're looking to add. I'm focused on more asymmetric bets right now though, but that's probably good. I'm just going to see real quick here. I don't know if they did another. I just want to see if I don't know if they put, so like the meeting they had yesterday with Anthony Scaramucci, is that on here? I don't know. I need to see. Nvidia results, Tesla attracting a more technical perspective on crypto. And today we sit down with Mark Newton to walk through key charts and highlights critical. Sometimes he does work too outside of this. I saw him do something with Herbert Ong. He did something with him just a little bit ago talking about Tesla, so you can get his work outside of it too. Anthony Scaramucci, they did have it. So yes. So I don't know. So I'll probably watch this later if I can. Let me just see if it plays. I'm not going to play it for you. Yeah, okay, cool. It's here. Is it? Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. So I'll probably check this out. I'll spend some time this morning looking at it and seeing what they were all talking about. That'll be a focus. Let me see if there's anything else Bitcoin related. We went through a bunch of stuff yesterday. Let me see. Is this new? Whales buying like crazy between ETFs, companies, people, just tons of it. Layer 2 scaling. Over 50% of Bitcoin exchanges now have integrated the Lightning Network. That is so fucking cool. So this just means that, again, much cheaper fees, inter-exchange fees, much, much cheaper. These transactions used to cost a fortune. If you guys are back in the old days, before people were using Lightning, like if you look here, all the major US ones weren't even in this list. You got Strike in this one. You still don't have US companies. You finally get Kraken in 2022. You get Binance in 2023 when nobody's using it anymore. You get KuCoin. You get Coinbase finally in 2024. So that's like the big US exchanges finally coming in and starting to use this, which is good. Cash App, it looks like, came in 2022 too. So it's nice that they're starting to do this. With Robotaxi coming in June, Tesla can flip and go to 500, 600 by end of year. I still think 600 is a distinct possibility. I mean, you got to realize I just think that from a technical trading standpoint, from where we're at, the more likely thing is maybe a bump up, then some grinding down, then maybe a bump up to here. Like, you're more likely not to have like an instant rebound. You could, but after a 40% drop, that becomes less likely. So I think a grind around here, and then maybe Q1 sucks. We get that report in Q2 in April that Q1 sucked because, again, Q1 is horrible for auto companies normally. And then we know that there's this transition with the Model Y, and we know that, again, they're just doing a lot of ramping all around the world. And maybe it ends up surprising people, and then we pop up in April. But that's like over here, and then we'll start going up. But you're probably not going to get an instantaneous pop. And so I think we kind of grind, roll over, and then, yeah, we could get up to 600 by the end of the year, beginning of Q1, I think, pretty easily. Because, again, we were already at 480. You got to remember, everybody around this time when I was selling my calls was like, I just bought calls with 1,000 price for 2027. Ouch. That hurt. All right, let's keep going. I sold some of my Tesla leaves, but holding until at least April for long-term capital gains. Since, oh yeah, if you're dealing with taxes, are a whole nother thing, guys. A lot of the trading I normally do are in IRAs, whether they're Roth or traditional, and so I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. If you have to worry about tax gains on stuff, and you always think about taxes. Taxes are super important. I buy and hold in my long-term account, so I'm always paying long-term capital gains. So just remember this stuff. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it for this. Yeah, I think that's it for the Bitcoin side. Let's see what else we got here. Trump, Mara, geopolitics. We went over Department of Government Efficiency. Let's just look at this. So again, this is yesterday with Elon Musk when he was meeting with the cabinet. This was a really important meeting, and he was just saying what he's doing here. He's talking about how pathetic the government is and why they so sorely need his help from a technical standpoint. It's a good listen to.
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually just put myself a humble tech support here because this is actually, as crazy as it sounds, that is almost a literal description of the work that the Doge team is doing, is helping fix the government computer systems. Many of these systems are extremely old. They don't communicate. There are a lot of mistakes in the systems. The software doesn't work. So we are actually tech support. It's ironic, but it's true. The overall goal here with the Doge team is to help address the enormous deficit. We simply cannot sustain as a country $2 trillion deficits. The interest rates, just the interest on the national debt, now exceeds the Defense Department spending. We spend a lot on the Defense Department. we're spending like over $1 trillion on interest. If this continues, the country will become de facto bankrupt. It's not an optional thing; it is an essential thing. That's the reason I'm here. I'm taking a lot of flack and getting a lot of death threats, by the way. And I'd like to step them up, but if we don't do this, America will go bankrupt. That's why it has to be done. And I'm confident at this point, knock on wood, knock on my wooden head, there's got a lot of wood there, that we can actually find $1 trillion in savings.
So again, great stuff. I don't know how anybody hates him. I just had lunch yesterday with my friend Abel, who's getting more into investing, and he's gotten really interested in it. He's watched on the sidelines with me, and he's talked to me for years now, and he's like, dude, I need to start making some money, and I like what you're doing. So he's going to start investing, and I'm trying to help him with it. But he was talking about how he just doesn't understand how people don't like Elon Musk. He used to be more liberal. His family on his wife's side is more liberal, but he just doesn't get it because this man is working so hard to help America. And so he's changed his stance a lot and is really supportive of him, which is fucking great. I just love to see that stuff. Department of Government Efficiency credit card update. Pilot program across 14 civilian agencies to audit unused, unneeded cards. 700,000 accounts, 30 billion of spend in 2024. After 8 days, 24,000 cards have been deactivated out of the 700,000, which will likely double by the end of the week. So there'll be 48,000 cards gone. Credit cards were also addressed in the 2/26/2025 executive order. We'll report back again next week. So again, they're trying to do things to offset the expenses of these too. Just imagine eventually in the future where they're using credit cards less and they're using more peer-to-peer transactions across maybe Solana or something else where they have like zero fee, like really low fee to be able to do purchases. It makes sense for the government to really switch their stance on what banks do and how they make their money. Lots of inefficiency in credit cards, but they're going to work really hard to clean this up at the federal government. I think that's great. George says, this is genius. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick just announced plans to use the Postal Service to conduct the census instead of wasting billions. I'm going to let him say this. This is a really brilliant idea. Why not use the existing Postal Service we have instead of spending $40 billion over 10 years doing the census? Why do that? Why not save, even if it's like $5 billion this next year, why not save that and use the existing infrastructure we have? This is brilliant. Let's listen.
So the concept was I'm sitting with the president and the costs of the post office are like it loses $7 billion. And he said, can you do something with it? And I said, sure. So I saw him the next day, he goes, okay, what do you got? He gives me a whole 24 hours to figure it out. And I said, well, the Commerce Department does the census. And we spend $40 billion every 10 years doing the census. And that means we hire 625,000 people. And they go and they rent cars and gas and you pay them food. And you know what they do? They go to every household in America and count the people. What department do we already have that already employs 625,000 people? It's got cars, already has gas, goes to every household. Can you imagine saying to your postman, can you count the people in the house? What day could he do the census? Monday? Could he double check it on Tuesday? How about Wednesday? He goes every day. So we can only save $40 billion or $4 billion a year, and we'll do a better job.
Probably $5.
And you know what else we can do with the post office?
The price gets more expensive.
They can go to your house when you have a baby and give you the form for Social Security. And the 20,000 Social Security offices that we have, we just don't need them. We actually can do real customer service. Go right to your house. Someone died. Here's the forms. You can fill it out. I'll bring them to your house. Customer service. Why? Because we've got those people. Let's use the assets of the government to make us better and save us money. We can be smart, We're allowed.
So I love this. I think this is brilliant. Again, he's talking about doing away with large swaths of the social security government infrastructure that just is not needed in any way. There's so much that can be automated, and there's redundant services like this. Platinum said, I still don't understand why Elon is the one in the room talking to these people when they should have an actual qualified financial bulldog. Maybe it's because it hasn't worked for 100 years. And they have systems that were created 70 years ago that they're still using today. And you have one of the most brilliant minds in the planet for thinking outside of the box and figuring out how to use first principles to make government more efficient. To me, it's an absolute no-brainer. I don't understand how anybody couldn't see why he needs to be in the room, even just from a technology standpoint. The man literally took a social media site that was kind of worthless, that the government forced him to buy after he talked about doing it. And then he used that same system to destroy that political party and allow people to have free speech, and then fired 80% of the personnel that worked for it and has now made it profitable in 2 years. I think that's exactly the kind of person we want in government, and Howard Lutnick is another great example of that. This man lost thousands of his employees on September 11th. He very much hates terrorism and hates radical Islam because he for the first time in ages took his kid to school, something he never did because his wife wanted him to, and it saved his life on September 11th. But he's brilliant. He's a good person. He's heavily invested into Bitcoin and MicroStrategy. And he's going to fix the U.S. Postal Service, too, which I love. We got Chuck Schumer. I'm not going to play him because he's just so retarded. But it says no good business operator would take the slash and burn approach that Doge is taking. Someone tell Chuck that Elon Musk did this with X and it worked out brilliant. Every company he's actually worked with. Breaking USAID funded in Ukraine, Fashion Week, luxury brands, and a $2 million red carpet. So again, USAID helping fund... I don't know what the fuck is going on anymore. Whatever. There's so much crap in it. Peter said, Doge is not exposing waste and saving money. It's undermining the business model, which has enriched the political class in Washington, D.C. That is why there's such pushback. Again, whether you're Democrat or Republican, there's a lot of people in the coffers here. They're all going to get exposed, just like the Epstein client list. They're going to get exposed, and it's going to hurt. Yeah, we went over this one. All right, maybe I didn't go over this one. Elon Musk corruption. Former ICE employee and Biden transition team member joined Family Endeavors in early 2021, and he helped secure a sole source HHS, Health and Human Services contract for overflow housing from licensed care facilities. This thing's fucking empty, by the way. As a result, Family Endeavors cash and portfolio investments grew from 8.3 million to 520. In 3 years, this person, this Family Endeavors fund, listen to this again. Former ICE employee and Biden administration team member joined Family Endeavors in early 2021 and helped secure a sole contract. Okay, and then it gained value by $512 million in 3 years. Since March of 2024, HHS has paid $18 million a month to keep the Pecos facility open, despite sitting empty. With national licensed facility occupancy now below 20%, HHS was able to terminate this contract, saving taxpayers $215 million annually. There's so much corruption that was in the Biden administration. I used to think that Trump was being hyperbolic about the Biden crime family, but now I'm realizing they are. They are. It's not necessarily just Biden. He was just like a puppet that could barely move, but there was so much corruption going on. Elon Musk says Norm Eisen stole $17 million of your money to promote democracy and used it to make a fucking puppet show. Again, we looked at a little bit of this yesterday from Data Republican. God bless you. And here's Elon Musk leaving the White House wearing his tech support shirt after the cabinet meeting. The U.S. sent $2.7 trillion in Medicare and Medicaid funds overseas to ineligible. Again, there's all this corruption, guys. There's so much corruption. So much corruption. These USPS guys, if we're going to keep you around for a little bit, I guess you're going to do the census now. So you got a new job, bitch. But yeah, things are going to change. Is Bitcoin dropping? Is it dropping? I don't know if it's dropping, but it's definitely going a little bit lower. Again, this could be a rejection point. We talked about that earlier. Hey, it looks like some people came back. They must have gotten over the political stuff. I don't know. But hey. Mara up 17% today. And so Mara is only up 9.8 now. So again, this is why I told you guys, don't buy Mara calls right away and hold off, because now it's only up 10%. I also said that maybe we're not done dropping today, right? And that you should be prepared for more of it. So I think that's the play for today. Okay? So just be patient. Be patient, because this thing already dropped by like 8-9% from where it peaked just a little bit ago. So be patient. There's still a lot of money to be made here. And Mara might have already hit its bottom, but it doesn't mean it couldn't retest it again as a W bottom before we go higher. Just seeing if anybody else has any other comments here. If you guys have anything specifically you want me to look at in regard to stocks, let me know. I'm just going to hop over here real quick and take a look at the watch list and kind of see how things are playing out. I might actually real quickly here. So the heat map, I'm going to pull that up too. So the heat map, this was pre-market. So you can see how pre-market was looking good for Nvidia, Amazon. Let's see where we're sitting now. Jesse, bro, according to your expertise, how far the call buying is suggested, 1 year or two? It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I love 2 year, but I run them both. I run the numbers on both. I'll pull them up in the option calculator. I would rather have extra time, though, and a lower multiple of return. But my general rule is I want at least 3x the underlying for my medium target, like where I think we're easily going to hit and surpass. I want 3x gains versus the underlying. And if I can't get that, then I don't even want to do it because I don't think the risk to reward is good. And that's why I got out of Tesla. I was violating my own rules and not even paying attention to it. But I think the more time you can give yourself to be right, the better. And I was under a different thought process, Christopher. So before, or who was that? Unlock Real Estate. Before I was thinking, oh, we're definitely going to have liquidity dry up at the end of this year, and that's not good. But Michael Howell's approach to that has changed. It sounds like Raoul Powell has changed a little bit. It sounds like Cathie Wood has changed a little bit. Now we're all kind of starting to think the pain comes into the first half because this president is willing to endure pain, right? He's let us know that he's willing to wield tariffs and create pain to create revenue that will allow him to eventually be able to abolish the IRS and maybe do a flat tax for a while and then maybe eventually dial that down to hardly anything either. But we've got a pro-growth, low tax, willing to punish allies for trying to turn into dictators. And when I make that reference, it's not even about Zelensky. I think he's the least of our problems. I think it's about the rest of Europe. So we're willing to punish people and hit them with a stick. And I think when that's happening, you have to be ready for some bad days. And so again, if you didn't listen a couple of days ago or this week, we were talking about how Cathie Wood several weeks ago, and I brought this up then too, was talking about how the velocity of money was slowing. Not M2. Everybody's quoting M2 right now, showing that we've got some money coming in. But if velocity is non-existent, that's so incredibly important because M2 can grow. You can have an increased money supply, but if nobody's putting the capital to work, it's not benefiting the economy. So that's still a concern in my mind. So I still think we could roll over more. It's a coin flip. Maybe we go up today and everything's good. We got Nvidia out of the way, but maybe we still have a few more days of suffering before we really start to take off. I think that's possible. And the markets, I think that's kind of what they're telling us today. And the 10-year was up like 0.8%. It's only up 0.49 now. TLT looks like it's starting to come around. So if TLT starts to go up, we get a big wipeout, guys, looking in the bottom corner here. And all of a sudden, Bitcoin's down in the 77,000 range. Maybe it's creeping even lower into the 74, 73s, where we have a lot of volume historically. And I'd have to like bring this other time. There we go. Let me see. I should almost turn this. I've still got this on a trend-based extension. I should probably show a fib retracement here too. But I do think, again, you start to really hit volume over here, guys, around the 70s. And our boy Mark Newton thinks the fib right here, the .5, is where we end up bottoming, even in the 60s. So just remember that. He could be right. So I think you should have a mindset where you're ready for more pain and you're ready to dial into that. And hopefully you got a good hedge. I'm happy with my hedge. I'm happy with what Mara got for earnings. I'm happy with holding that position. If it gets really crushed because the market gets crushed more, I'm probably going to be buying more of that. I'm probably going to be going into MSTX more. I might even be looking at other options that are asymmetric that I could dial into too and purchase that might be really good returns. If anybody has ideas on those, throw them out. I want to look at them. Ample financials, please, Jesse. Oh, I didn't do that the other day. Let me do something real quick. And oh, guys, just to show you Mara, so their revenue really went up a lot. Their net income went up a lot because of their convertible bond debt offerings. Their free cash flow was not good. But again, if you look here, revenue looks right on track. Net income looks beautiful. And from a PE ratio, it says 9.15. The forward is off right now. But I think that's probably going to be good too. And then again, estimates are kind of showing them not making any money. We'll see if that ends up changing. I don't even know if all that's updated yet. Another key chart though, their Bitcoin holdings. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Look at that. I love that so much, especially if Bitcoin goes higher. So this is a play I'm probably still going to be very interested in. If you guys have other plays though, really good asymmetric bets. I know we were talking about ones with the Ukraine war. I don't know all of them really well, but if you guys have a case for a really good asymmetric bet, bring it up here and or in Discord. Dial into the data. Again, we've got a bunch of different things that people talk about in here with stocks like Nvidia. It looks like is probably a big one with earnings and stuff like that. If you guys have things that you're talking about that we need to communicate about, let me know. Be like, put the stuff in here as a container in some of these stocks, and then come back and say, hey, Jesse, let's talk about this one. I think it's a really good asymmetric bet. I looked it up. I ran the options, profit calculator, whatever, and we should take a look at it, and that would be helpful. Now let's look at Ample. I'll do that one real quick. What time is it right now? 9 o'clock. I do think we have more. Do we have more data? We probably need to do that too. Let me just go over here real quick. I think we did get more economic data. Pending homes, it looks like, is what's coming in. It's probably generating now. Let me take a look. Pending homes plummeting. So, and again, not the worst, but again, negative territory. We've been in negative territory. I want to show this, guys. We've been in negative territory for one of the longest periods in history. If you look over here, like look at pending home sales, look at it over here and over here, all the way to January 2009. So the great financial crisis, where we wiped out where home sales were so bad, we've been much worse than that. Much worse. So we are at the bottom of the home sale crisis. I'm just telling you that. If you look at 2005 to 2009, March 2009, we've surpassed that as far as length and depth, well beyond it. And then again, there was a little bit of a rout that happened here in 2010, well beyond that. We've never seen a moment in history that has been this negative, or at least that I can see since this index was created over 20 years ago, 23 years ago. We've never had a moment that's as bad as what we've been through now. So to me, the only direction is up in homes and in the real estate market. It's just a matter of getting rates to roll over and come down. 10-year too, guys. 10-year, it was 0.28% up a second ago. And so TLT now is only down by 0.23%. So it looks like that might end up turning around. So it is working as a good hedge. Hopefully some of you had an opportunity to buy some of it. Anyway, let's go back to Ample. I don't want to lose track of where I was at. Let me see here. Ouch. Got to make sure I don't lose track. I lose track so easily. All right, so revenue looks good on this one. Net income is very negative. I hate that. Cash flow is a little positive, which is good, but these guys do not make money. They're probably like, are they a growth stock? They're only 9% revenue growth year over year. They got a decent cash position, no debt. Operating expenses are continuing to go up, but it looks like a decent amount of that's R&D. They're diluting shares. Again, I think like Bitcoin's kind of an exception where people are willing to allow some of that. Institutional ownership's growing. I just don't know enough about this company, but it looks like there's more sellers than buyers. Again, yeah, all the way throughout, even in 2021. What has the stock done? It's went up a lot. It was in August of 2024, it was like in the 7s, and it got all the way up to 14. So it doubled in value. Its forward PE is 101. I don't know. This doesn't seem like a great opportunity. It's definitely not an asymmetric bet for me. So I personally wouldn't love it. Just at a glance. Christopher, any chance you could check out the Palantir chart? Yes, always. Let me do that. Palantir. Blah, blah, blah. Is that it? Yeah, there we go. So Palantir did close the gap. I don't like the trading action here. It looks like it's doing a bear flag. I think a lot of things are going to be doing that. It does have some decent volume, a volume shelf around 77. And again, I think it makes it to at least 82, 81. That's where we start to get support. And then around 77 to 75, we have more. So we got a decent amount. I'll just draw this real quick here. Nope, not you. This. So I'd say this. I'd say support will really start to kick in a little bit like right about here. But honestly, like, I don't know. If it cracks this, it's probably going to roll even lower. And then your next hope is down here. Maybe I'll just draw it this way. Then your next hope is like right here. Let me do it this way. I'll just bring it down a little bit. Your next hope is like right in this zone. And then if it doesn't do that, man, I mean, it's the next support zone is really like here, right? Where we fill that gap. So this is kind of what I'm thinking as far as supports. Maybe this is helpful too. I'll probably draw it like this. So this is helpful. Yeah, I think this is kind of cool. I should actually look to do it this way. So we have a bounce zone here. It's pretty thick. We want to bounce. If we can't bounce, I'll probably draw it right to there. If we can't bounce there and we drop underneath of it and we find resistance up into here, then again, nothing really till 62. And then there's this big gap. This thing is still running. What is Palantir running at? Let me just check this real quick and then we'll move on. So Palantir has a forward PE of 153. I think this is recalculated too. So maybe it's at 151 this morning. That's a really high forward PE ratio. So, man, I'm just going to say I'm not even interested in buying Palantir until maybe right here in the 45 zone. Right? Like until we've started to close. I don't know. Like technically it's got support at the 200, but there's just no volume there. So I'm just going to draw it to here. This is kind of what I'm thinking. So I would be interested here after filling that gap, but that's a steep ass drop, dude. That's like a 65% drop. And from where we're at, and this doesn't have to happen. If the markets turn around, this could turn around at any point. So it's probably a good idea to pay attention to the really broad market. But I don't like potential of a 50% downside, especially with options, man. That's like going to zero, right? So I don't love it. I don't love the setup at all. At all. Jesse, have you looked at the option charts for IBIT? I did, and I didn't totally love them. I still like Mara. I love Mara. Mara looked really great. The return on Mara, guys. So just to be clear, we are sitting at about the high of the market cap because there's been so much share dilution. So you can't really use historical pricing to compare like the time frame in November of 2021 to today. Because even though we're down here and the price was all the way up to 83, the market cap is the same size because they've diluted shares so much. But I do think that there's a distinct possibility that with Mara, we can go up 250% from here. That would put the market cap a little over 10 billion, 11 billion. And then I think there's still a possibility if we have a really great market that we could see this previous high over here in the 80s. So, and maybe even up to the .618 golden retracement zone at 89. So if we're just talking like that, if we look at the low end and just say, I mean, damn, man, we were at 34 before, right? So it's not crazy to say that it could go to 47. Even with the share dilution, they've got so much Bitcoin now. But if this thing goes to 47 and it does it by like August of this year, maybe September, yeah, right there. I make over $3 million, right? I make over 3 million, and if it does it sooner than 3.6 million, if it goes higher and actually goes up like past that and starts and for some reason it got up into the 80s, I mean that would be $11 million. So this kind of return, when you're looking at, let's just even say the 47 range, something I believe totally possible. Again, getting at about $11 billion cap, nothing crazy. That's a 245% increase from roughly where we are today. That's a 1900% move though. So this is like, what is that, 7x? Almost 8x the underlying. I love that. And then when you get up here, it gets retarded. It's a 7,000% increase. It's like 11, 12x. So I love that kind of stuff. Noam, thank you for your support of Israel and Jewish people. You know, there's going to be some Jewish people that might be bad people, but I don't like to classify entire groups of people as bad people. The only time I'll classify an entire group, or I shouldn't even say an entire group, but a group as bad people is like if you're a radical Islamist who thinks that it's okay, that loves Sharia law and thinks it's okay to mistreat women and murder people because they dishonored you in some way. I don't think that's something that a civil society should encourage or allow. Sharia law should not be allowed. So there's things like that that I'll oppose. But outside of that, if you're like a regular, like if you're somebody who like follows Islam the way like a Christian does, who goes to church on Sundays but doesn't go to any other one, and you don't really believe in a lot of the crazy aspects of it, because again, even in Christianity, if you look at some of it, it gets a little weird. And the Crusades, some of that's hard to justify, but also you kind of can because you want, I don't know. There's a lot of bad things that happen throughout history. But I do believe that Israel is like the Jewish people are some of the most persecuted people on earth. And to act any different about that is disgusting. So I'm gonna support you guys. Now the ones that do bad things, again, they should be in trouble. All right, Alexis, Jesse, September 2025 calls for iron. What do you think about it? They were okay. I looked at them. I did look at them. And I've looked at CleanSpark calls too. Again, the 25s, I was looking at them and trying to see what they look like if it gets to 40. And they're looking pretty entertaining too. Some pretty good returns that you can see in here. A 400% return. Let's say it got up to 40 like we've been talking about. A 400% return would be a 3,500% gain. That is a pretty big return on the investment. And iron is probably a little less than that. The thing I don't like about iron is I think you kind of get some of the iron play with what you have with Mara now, but I don't think you get that with you don't get the stack. You don't get the stack of Bitcoin, right? That's the problem I have with iron. I don't love it as much. And I sold some of my iron stock. I sold like 70,000 or something yesterday. I've still got a decent chunk, but I sold some of it just to buy Mara calls. And I still think that was the right decision. Mara up about 9% on the day. Iron down 2.3%. CleanSpark up 2%. I just think iron has a weaker, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get this to where I can type in here and it's not coming up for some reason. I don't know if one of my screens is locked up. Or maybe it just doesn't, I don't know. It's just like clocking. Yeah, there we go. Okay. But yeah, we can take a look at iron calls. So iron, real quickly. Let me just bring it over here. So real quickly, iron has definitely overshot and been punished brutally. This thing was up to $15, $16 November of 2024. So it really had rebounded beautifully. The AI, what is this, Mike Alfred's thing? He doesn't talk to me anymore. He blocked me because we got in a verbal confrontation. But this thing was looking good, and it was all the rage because of the HPC plays. But it's been butchered. It went from almost $16 down to $8. So 50% drop in just the last 3 months, which sucks if you were getting excited and thinking this thing was the future and it was way better than all the other miners just to lose a bunch of money. There's dilution in here too. I do think it's possible, though, that this thing could get to 21 pretty easy. And again, over here at the 28 range. So let's say we'll stick with like maybe a 20 range. We won't look at the volume and all that other stuff. We'll skip it for now. Oh, options profit calculator ain't working. Let me see here. All right. So we'll say 20 is the target that we're looking at. And then we'll look out a ways. So we'll try September because, again, I think September is a little safer of a play. Anything else I'm adding to will probably be that time frame. They've even got October. I don't know what kind of volume they have. But let's look at the $20 strike range. And let's put some contracts in here. Let me see, 1,000. So 1,000 is probably not crazy. $32,000. And so, again, I think this thing could go to 28 pretty easy. So I'm going to put it out there. They don't have a stack, so I think they're going to not benefit from some of that. They really have to execute on HPC. That has to happen, or this will just go to zero. But you can get a decent return. So if it gets to 20, 153% return can give you 675. So this is okay. And again, you can get to a 10x up here, which is a good number. But I just don't know if I love the play as much from a fundamental standpoint. I really like Bitcoin holdings. So that's where I struggle. What do I think of ARKG January 2026 calls? I still like ARKG immensely. It's a huge play for me. You might want to dial it out further, though. You know what I mean? Maybe 2027. I haven't done that yet, but let me just look. Let me look at ARKG for 2027. I'm thinking about going into 20, and I haven't looked at volume, so I'm going to be skipping all that stuff. You want to, or open interest. You want to know what the open interest is? Have you heard of BIDO ETF? It is something you would ever consider. That's the short, right? Is that the short? Or is that the long? So Archie, I think it's pretty easy for this thing to go up a lot. It doesn't even look like, oh, here we go. Let's say the 46s. I'm just going to assume that's decent amount of volume. I'm going to drop this down to 500. So I actually think we might get as high as 80. That's a 200% increase. Puts us as like $4 billion in assets under management. So let's look at it real quick here. So let's assume that in a year we do all right and we can double. That's 382% out of 100%. So it's not quite the return of what I'm looking at in the 2026s. But again, you're getting more time. But let's say we end up doubling over here. It's 1,100% out of 200. These aren't really the asymmetric bet that my 2026s are. So I kind of like the 2026s better. The 2026s, I'll just show you what I have there. So you're getting more time with this one, but the bet seems to be pretty sketchy. Or not sketchy, but just not a great return. So this is what I have. It's assuming that we can double in a year, which I think is totally doable. That's going up by like $1.2 billion in AUM. So a $2.5 billion ARKG fund. So if we get any FOMO at all, I think this is an easy bet over the next year. And I think we're going to have FOMO over the next year. That's why I'm looking at this, right? Because I think we can figure out our bond market and I think we can get FOMO. And maybe you try something in between. Maybe like mid next year is a good one. Maybe June. Excuse me. But I have a ridiculous amount of these contracts. Too many. And my price is a little higher than what they are today. I'll leave it where they are today. Today they're 0.85 so that you guys could see if you bought right now. Mine's 0.96. But let's say by October, November, we can hit my 50, or we can hit my my target for 50. Then I'm looking at 632% out of 100. That's pretty good. But I actually think that, again, we can double and or we can get 200% in gains. And that's where I really make the money on this one. So if we get to like a 5 billion, or I'm sorry, 4.5 billion in AUM, assets under management, then off of a 200% gain, I can get 3,000. I don't know. I guess it's not too crazy. It's not too crazy different than the 2027s. There's a little bit of better return here. So maybe for me, it's just the amount of dollars. I've got tons of dollars in these. So maybe it's not a bad idea to look at 2027s. If I buy more, I'm probably buying for 2027. Probably doing that with a lot of stuff. So yeah, I don't know. Open interest sucks. It probably does suck because there's not that many people that are looking out 2 years. And again, I haven't looked at the actual contracts. Let me see. So this is if I have 200,000 in and we get to that 70, 80 level. So 200% gain, 1,000% return. So you're getting a 5x. And what was I getting over here? Maybe I'll do it June 2026. That might be good. Let me see, 50s. I'll stick with this now. I'm not looking at the dollars. I'm just looking at the percent of return. Oh, I got hiccups and my throat is rough. I might end up dialing out here soon. So again, 200% gives you 3,200%. So you're looking at 11, 12x here. The other one, you're looking at 5. Maybe if you do Junes, which are going to be lower open interest, you're going to have less volume in those, so you'll have less selling liquidity. Those might be somewhere in the middle, between 11 and 11 and 5, so maybe 7, 8 would be my guess. So again, you're paying more for that extra time. I do think I'm going to go, guys. This fucking hiccups are killing me. So I hope everybody has a good day. Mara's still up 9.5%, loving that. We're still seeing other areas, Bitfarm's up, CleanSpark's up. A few of the miners are holding on good. I think that is a good sign, but we'll see what happens with the markets, whether we can break through or whether we get rejected and roll over. That's definitely a possibility. Anyway, hope you guys have a great day. I will talk to you later. Peace out. We'll go out with this here. Peace out. Bye. Oh, better turn on some music. Bye.
They said that me would inherit the earth, and life will teach you what you couldn't learn. That's why we gotta keep putting in work, and maybe then the unity will emerge. We need a breakthrough to do all the things that ain't safe to. Use all the pain the game gave you. Let's show them why we irreplaceable. We irreplaceable. Together nobody can stop us. Had to move the mountains. Now we on the top.
Ready to fight, ready to win, and ready to make America great again.
At the speed of light. This is what living and dreaming is like. We living it so we can sleep at night. When our dreams collide, that's when we arise. Yeah.
The future is gonna be amazing.
We got so much to believe in. Feels like I'm rising to the ceiling. If we're dreaming, we could be it. The time is now.
How do you like my garbage truck?
And the future is a mystery. We know right now is a weapon. That's why we shooting to make history. We fired up, aiming for the sky ain't high enough. And now we looking down cause the time is up. Got so many wins, can't count them up. We ready to ride. Yeah. And we up for the fight. Yeah, we ready to ride. We up on a high. And we will arise. And we have arrived. Let's hold on to this feeling. We got so much to believe in.